Hey, what up, jerks? I think we're right on time today. Pretty much 6:31 right now. Wow, what a day today. Jennifer McCabe on the stand, cross examination. Got a great guest to discuss it. Um, Before we get there, I just got to say that I had a great time last night. Some of you saw. It's funny because the party, there was a couple speeches. Everyone recorded the speeches, but no one posted the speeches because like the volume wasn't that good from where we were recording them. So mostly those didn't get posted, but what got posted is me cutting a rug, dancing. I had a good time last night. It was fun hanging out with all the Free Karen Reed people on the North Shore last night. Aiden was there, Nurse Kim. I had a lot of fun with Nurse Kim, DJ, Beatrice. It was so much fun. Deanna Corby, Meredith, two of the Canton Nine. I had so much fun last night. I'm just glad to see you all. If you saw me last night, thank you so much because that was fun. I really enjoyed hanging out with everyone last night. So let's get back, though. Since we had fun last night, let's get back to the serious business, not the dancing around of what's going on in court today with Jennifer McCabe, her testimony. Jeez, I don't even know where to start because there were so many things, so many changes. There's the 12:50 calls that came up. 12:50 a.m. There was the no longer a butt dial. Now they're inadvertent calls. There were 7 butt dials unaccounted for. Just their butt dials, inadvertent calls, 7 of them right in a row. Even after the 12:50 a.m. That came so far after Karen was already home. So much suspiciousness. I don't know where to start. I'm going to go to Attorney Bederow. We'll see where he wants to start. I'm wondering what he thinks was the biggest hit against Jennifer McCabe. I guess that's where we're going to open tonight because I want to know. Like there was so much good stuff here. What is the biggest takeaway? Where did she screw up the most? Because she changed her story so many times. So let's bring him up. Everyone wants to hear from him. Attorney Mark Bederow is back on the show. You can follow him on Twitter. His Twitter is at Bederow Law, and his website, bederowlaw.com. Again, I want to just reiterate, last time we had a couple people send in questions via Super Chat. We're not doing that. The only way we take questions now is in the free. You just put your question for free. If I don't see it or read it, just keep posting it until I ask the question if I can. We'll try. But we're not doing Super Chats. We don't read the Super Chats until the very end. If you want to support us, that's the best way. But it's not a place that we're going to be asking Mark Bederow questions. It just gets too crazy. So if you want something read, just post it now. You don't have to pay for it. But I do appreciate the Super Chats. Those do support us. So let's bring up Attorney Mark Bederow and get all your questions ready because I'm sure we'll have a lot of them tonight. Attorney Mark Bederow, how you doing tonight?
Okay, how are you?
We got the Sun Devils going tonight.
Yep. Well, it's warm. It's warm and sunny here, so why the hell not?
It's not kind of a little bit like got a little chillier today, but it's still.
You're a little north of me. We get a little few degrees warmer than you, but it's
okay.
It's still nice. No clouds. 84 today. 84 tomorrow.
84. Holy shit! Wow. See, you are warmer. I don't think we hit the 70s. I don't know. Maybe it was just a little colder today. Yesterday was really nice, but yeah, it's been. Spring is here. I mean, you can't complain. No matter what, it's no snow.
Oh, it's here. Everything's yellow with pollen, so it's definitely here where I am.
Yeah, the pollen. You definitely saved me too. I gotta remind everyone how you saved me with the recommendation. Yeah, that stuff works.
Yep.
I'm off of it. I stopped taking it now, and still like feeling good.
I take it every day for 2 months.
I know. I'm wondering if I should get another one.
Good. It's a preventative thing. It's not an after the fact. It's
exactly. Yeah, it works good. So let's get to the stuff today because this is like the prime time, the big moment. Anytime Jennifer McCabe is on the stand, everybody's watching just to see what she's gonna say. What did you think? This is 2 days of this. What were the biggest takeaways from this?
I mean, I guess on a macro level, if you look at her over the 2 or 3 days that she testified, in a global sense, the way I would describe it in a summation, if you're going to be kind, is she's just unworthy of belief. For whatever reason, you can think she's an innocent victim. You can think she's involved in this, but either way, she's not reliable. Whether she's lying, can't remember, whatever it is, she's just not worthy of belief. And there's 10 different reasons why, I suppose, but I don't even know where you begin with her. I mean, there's so much to talk about. It's actually hard to prioritize, but I mean, I guess what sticks out the most in no particular order is she says things today that she clearly did not say in 2022, in January and February, that she did not say in April of 2022, that she probably did not say to the FBI in 2023, and that she did not say at trial in 2024. So she's a chameleon. She moves around and shapeshifts depending on whatever needs to happen. And you can see that in some of her inconsistencies before you even get to establishing the inconsistencies. So, for example, I mean, she'll tell you with a straight face that I have always said that Karen said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And she's going to die on that hill. Everything else be damned. That's what I said from day one to every day. And that it's absurd. I mean, that's clearly not the case. That's just one example. She has morphed her story to support what the DA is doing. You've seen it with the timeline. I mean, just a year ago, she was very clear about 1245, and you know that. That was the theory that the DA used at the last case. In fact, you heard some of it today from an otherwise boring witness, the one at the end. The time of incident in the alcohol report was 1245, not 1231. Well, where do you think that came from? That came from Jennifer McCabe's trial testimony the first time, saying, I saw the car and then it left. So that's another example. The phone calls that she seemingly doesn't remember, whether it be made to John O'Keefe that night 7 times in 20 minutes, whether it be made to her sister right at the time that Karen announced we need to go look for him. 38 seconds. Doesn't remember that. Seems weird. She just doesn't seem to remember a hell of a lot. She doesn't even remember, in the span of a few minutes, making 5 phone calls and then telling the FBI I made 2, but it wasn't a lie because I forgot. I didn't remember. I just, in that 5 minutes of excitement, I just forgot. I mean, the list goes on with the actual substance of the misrepresentations, the lies, the forgets, whatever you want to call it. But what really drives it home on just how absurd it is you need a scorecard to keep how many people got it wrong while she got it right. And the statistical odds of this being accurate and her being the truth teller here is probably nil. So by my count, she definitely, the first responders, the cops, got it wrong, but you haven't even heard that yet. That hasn't come. Good got it wrong and wrote it down wrong. Lank got it wrong and wrote it down wrong. Proctor got it wrong, wrote it down wrong. Tully got it wrong twice, actually, on 2 different topics. Tully took an 0 for 2 header on this. He got it wrong twice, both in 2022 and a year later about the Lank visit. He couldn't write down, pick up, drop off. Apparently he had problems determining which was which, so he got that wrong. The court reporter in the state grand jury apparently got it wrong anywhere from 10 to 12 times, that's impressive. And everyone's favorite Madam Court reporter at the first trial apparently got it wrong too, because although the transcript was accurate in the sense grand jury as well that she did say, did I hit him was a question, but she also said, I hit him. And inexplicably, people in the Canton Police Department, the Massachusetts State Police, the FBI, we left them out because, that they got that wrong too. The FBI, the Canton Police, the state police, grand jury court reporter, Madam Court reporter, everybody got it wrong. Jen McCabe got it right. That is patently ridiculous. That's just one issue with her. I mean, obviously there's a lot more, but I think to me, if the goal of the exercise is to establish that she's not worthy of belief, she's not credible, she's not reliable, I think listing the odds that could be the case is, to me, that's the biggest issue. It's just impossible for any sane person evaluating this fairly to say that she's reliable in what she claims she said.
Yeah. It was mentioned today too. I was on with your friend there, Grace Curley on RKO. She was quoting you on that, on all the different people that Jen McCabe has corrected, basically. I just wonder if there's going to be any pushback. Do you think that any of those folks will say, you know what? Like Tully, I mean, do you think he'll come back and push back at all, or is it just
the issue is
they want to go with her narrative?
No, they're not. What they wrote down, and as however corrupt or whatever you think this case is, police officers write down what you tell them, and they're not going to move away from that. That's just not going to happen. Okay. Whatever you think of these cops, they're not going to go in there and say, yeah, Jen McCabe was right and I was wrong, for two reasons. One, they're not going to make themselves the idiot on TV. That's just not the way it is. Cops are always going to go by the report. That's what they told me. That's what I wrote. But beyond that, never mind the sequestration stuff. They're all aware and watching the cops. Give me a break. They know what's going on. And do you think that one of them is going to, dip their toe into the pool and say, well, yeah, that's what she told me, knowing that there's still 10 other people she didn't tell it to? No, she's toast on this. But again, the defense has to do what they didn't do the first time. They kind of left this sitting the first time. She won't admit what she, and Prince, another cop, I forgot her, right? Trooper Prince, sorry. I can't count past 10 with this stuff. They have to do in this trial what they didn't do in the first trial. The evidence is that McCabe said, I hit him, and I told the cops. She's confronted with these reports. She says, I don't care, I told them. But she says, I didn't say it. And it's just kind of left there. So you have to kind of close the circle. You have to call Trooper Prince and say, did you interview Jen McCabe? I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to lay the whole foundation, but did you interview Jennifer McCabe on this date and time? And, you're trained to be accurate as a police officer. It's important to write things down accurately. It's a murder case. You want to make sure you're doing it right. What's a cop going to say? No, I'm not trained to do that. I'm going to be lazy, stupid, and inattentive and just make a mess. No, they're going to answer these questions the right way. And they're going to say, what I wrote. Well, what did she say? And they're going to say, I don't remember. And they're not going to be like Jen McCabe, who's the only person I've ever seen in 26 years who says, I know what I said. I don't know what he wrote. I don't even want to look at it, because if you show it to me, I know without even thinking about it, it can't possibly refresh my recollection, because even though I don't know what it is. Nobody does that. That's insane. So what the cops will do in this case is say, I need to look at my report. And they're going to look at their report, and you're going to ask them, does that refresh your recollection of what she said? They're going to say, yeah.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I wrote down.
You need to do this with Prince, Tully, Proctor, Good, Lank. I mean, look, are they going to call grand jury reporters? No. Are they going to call Madam Court reporter to say that this is an accurate transcript? And that's every single thing. And court transcripts are certified, by the way. The court reporter will sign a sworn statement in any transcript affirming under oath that this is an accurate transcript. I mean, if they really wanted to stick the knife and twist it slowly, they could say, I want to call Madam Court Reporter and say, she didn't say that. And I know that because I would have written it down. So, I mean, I don't know that they're going to literally go that far, but they could.
We'd finally get to see the court reporter speak. We have no idea what her voice sounds like. That would be something. I think a lot of people would be wanting to tune into that one.
The other thing is she has a very convenient memory for what she remembers and forgets. I mean, on direct examination, she remembers everything she wants to remember, but on cross, it's always, I don't know this and that. And it feels, another word for her, which I would use in summation for her, is she's so contrived. Everything is just so contrived. I mean, she can't remember that I didn't tell the FBI agents, who, by the way, should be called FBI agents going forward. That's a topic for down the line here. I can't remember not telling them about 3 phone calls I just forgot about, but I do remember I didn't want to speak to them for 10 minutes because I hadn't brushed my teeth. I mean, seriously, who the hell believes this? Really? I mean, other than the echo chamber and people who get all excited over, they think Karen causes cancer and is, the problem for global warming and other things. Who really believes this other than that echo chamber? It's just, you go back to it, she's not worthy of belief. And if she's not worthy of belief about these things, then why would you find her worthy of belief about other things? And then you go to her general statement, which is, I'm a victim here. I found my friend. That's fine. I'm traumatized and all I cared about was my friend. And then you go to those text messages. And I'm not talking about the irrelevant ones on redirect, 99% of which were inadmissible and should have never been allowed anyway, although did work out to the defense benefit for other reasons. But, that's her theory, is we're all just so concerned about my close friend. And then you look at that text message chain and what you don't see in there. And this was handled beautifully on recross. Okay. Which is Brennan's fault. If he was never going to seriously try to redirect her, and he didn't on any of the damage where she was bleeding from getting cut on cross, he didn't even try, which tells you a lot. He knows, okay? But the point is, he really opened the door on recross to establishing that text chain. That was the inner circle. That was the inner sanctum. That's the family. Those are the McCabes and Alberts only. No Kerry Roberts, no friends, nobody else. And when you look at the people on that text chain, the 4 people, Brian, Nicole, Matt, and Jen, what else do they all have in common? They were in the house that night, okay? They either know what happened or didn't happen. And when they were speaking privately, did you see a single text message in that chain that had anything about how awful this is, what happened to our close friend? No, you heard about don't tell him the guy is in the house and squeaking like schoolgirls that Kerry Roberts is telling them everything and clicking their heels at how exciting that was and things of that nature. And you haven't even heard all of it. There's more coming, that are going to be introduced through Matt McCabe or Brian Albert about, the Asian house, right? Or about driving by and taking pictures, or the cops are out there digging, this kind of stuff. So look in that text chain. That was the inner people who were in the house, and find any sense of genuine sadness or just angst over what happened to John O'Keefe. Now, there are messages between her and Kerry, and that's fine, but what the hell does that have to do with anything? A couple days later, that we're listening to messages that Kerry Roberts said she was upset. I mean, that's just not relevant legally. I mean, you can feel bad for her as a person, but legally, none of that matters. And if he doesn't redirect, then you don't get the defense emphasizing that's because the bad stuff was in the family chain, members only, and Kerry isn't a member. She's a nobody at that point to Jen McCabe. And it's only after that she becomes the useful idiot to Jen McCabe. And you saw some cross on that as well about how, did she learn for the first time that Kerry told the FBI? Didn't hear it. Who knows? But these are all really, really terrible things for Jen McCabe, and the things that she remembers and the things that she doesn't remember. Not remembering calling her sister at 5:07, right when they're going to leave, but remembering, Bella's mom, and remembering all other kinds of things. And I definitely heard I hit him 3 times, but nobody wrote it down. A jury has to be told, who believes this? Is she worthy of belief? And the examples are endless. They're just endless. So, the part at the end of the cross that you saw about, she said, I was so upset, but I knew Karen did it. She said I hit him, and she had a crack taillight, by the way. She went back to cracked when she was hot under the collar, not busted into pieces. And she basically said, I didn't need to go in the house. I didn't need to check on my family because I knew Karen did it. But the reality is she didn't tell the police that. She'll say she did, but the cops are going to say, no, she didn't. And if you cross-examine the cops properly, they're going to say, if somebody told me that, I would have done something. I would have written it down. I would have investigated. And you can ask any cops that are in the chat or who if there was evidence that, she said, I hit him, and there was evidence of a busted taillight, I guarantee you any police officer would have pulled Karen aside, even politely, even sympathetically, and said, ma'am, you need to go over here because she's a suspect in something. They don't necessarily know what, but they're not letting her leave without at least trying to figure out what that means. So she's not worthy of belief. And when you see her revert to lashing out and gratuitously throwing out, there were taillight pieces there, and the FBI closed this investigation because of me, because they liked what I told them. This is all just absurd. And that's the reality of it. And whether you think she's guilty or not, Jen McCabe, in this case, was not a credible witness, not even close.
There, the FBI stuff. I want to get back to that right from the go here. She brought that up. It seemed like she also lied several times to the FBI.
Clearly.
How can the defense use that? Can they open the door with that now? It seems like they can.
Well,
how far can they go with it now?
You have to put it in context. Number one, you'll notice they did not object. They let her go, which is interesting. They'd have to probably get a ruling from the judge before they dive in. But the problem the prosecution will have in keeping this out at this point is their own witness gratuitously offered this. Okay. This was not an improper question that led her to open the door. She said on her redirect that in essence, I cooperated with all the cops and all of that. I never hid from the cops, did whatever they wanted. And you heard Brennan, you went to the grand jury, you spoke to the police, you did this. She's just perfect citizen. Okay. Which was such an obvious point on recross to say, except for the time when you got away from the Canton cabal and here come, the G-men who want to know what's going on, at which point you lied to them and you cut off the interview after 5 minutes. That did not open the door to what she said next, which was just a gratuitous, ridiculous statement that, that investigation is closed. It went nowhere. And, they obviously believed what I said. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And they took what I said and they ended up doing nothing. So that is the prosecution's fault. That is their own witness who is way out of line. And it's not like she just mentioned like, oops, FBI. She went out of her way to say that investigation is over. And that's never been confirmed, whether it is or it isn't. The government, forget the Canton police and the attic dwellers and the other people who tell you it's over. It may very well be over. But what if it's not? And you've had Jen McCabe now say it is. Okay? It's obvious. That's what she said. So that's her fault. You'll also notice Brennan made no steps to cut her off and seek to approach. He let it happen. He probably wanted it to happen. We'll talk about that in a second. So if the defense wants the FBI to be, and the U.S. attorney by name, then at this point, it's a charade to keep it out. They ought to be fair game as we're talking about the FBI, we're talking about the U.S. attorney, and if the defense wants to, they ought to be able to say that Arco was hired by the Justice Department, which, by the way, I'm not so sure Brennan doesn't want with his, lunatic cross-examination that he thinks is going to be effective, where he's going to allege that the defense and FBI and U.S. attorney are all conspiring to screw the Norfolk DA. So I can't tell you that that wasn't done intentionally, but I also can't tell you that the defense won't be okay with that. I would let that door open and drive a truck right through it.
Wait, I would love to see that. Love to see the jury know all about the FBI.
At this point, there's no reason not to. I mean, that McCabe completely, on many levels, her testimony is so ridiculous. I mean, gratuitously saying there were 45 taillight pieces there. She has no firsthand knowledge of that. Okay. Now, she knows all about that, but she doesn't know what Kerry Roberts said or anything. I mean, at what point do you just throw your hands up and say she's full of shit and not worthy of belief? Again, I keep coming back to that. She is not a good witness for the prosecution. I mean, if you're using her to establish the 1231 timeline or whatever, and you think that the jury is going to just disregard her 1245 and 1250 calls and her either inadvertent and or butt dial calls, I mean, she's not worthy of belief.
Somebody, I think, in the chat does believe her, which is funny.
Okay.
Out of all the people watching, I think we have one guy here who is he's the mod. He's the moderator for Kevin, the Yellow Cottage Kevin.
Okay.
He's made a couple comments tonight. He is funny. I give him this guy Thomas a hard time sometimes.
Why does he believe her? What are his comments?
I know, right? That's what because he's asking you all these questions in the chat. I want to ask Thomas, like, why does Thomas Fleming believe Jennifer McCabe? Because he's here's his comment tonight. He's got a few of them, but here's one I starred. He says, Thomas Fleming says, the echo chamber, says a guy who only goes to free Karen Reed sites. Physician, heal thyself.
Okay, that's not a comment. That's just a troll who has nothing better to do on a Friday night. So unless you have anything intelligent to offer, why don't you apparate back to the attic?
Last time I gave this guy shit, he gave me a super chat.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a laugh. Yeah, I was like going nuts on him. Then he gave me a good super chat, and I was like, "All right, now you're talking."
Listen, you can't. There's an
he also wants to know why. Like, do you really believe that they put the body out there that John was killed in the house? That's the other big question Thomas has for you tonight. But I want to know if Thomas, if you're going to answer this, Mark, I want Thomas to answer in the chat. Does he really believe everything Jennifer McCabe said is fact?
Yeah, but even I don't even need to wait for that. I don't care. Do you really believe the body was put there and this and that? See, this is the classic deflection from these people that I've tried to explain for the better part of a year, which is this. You can totally think that Karen, in a literal sense, did it. I don't care if that's what you think. But we're in a court of law and we're having a trial where she's facing life in prison. And the issue before the jury is whether there is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So the answer isn't whether I think the body was moved or he was killed in the house. The answer for this guy is explain to me why there is no reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is on you, Thomas, with your position, not me. That's deflection.
Kind of the problem. That's kind of the problem, Thomas, that you can't prove that it happened the way the prosecutors say. That's the problem here.
Why there is no reasonable doubt. I don't have to prove, if I'm taking the defense position, I don't have to prove anything. Your boss in the attic knows this, right? Prove anything.
I like this comment too. Valerie says that super chat money came from Morrissey's office. It probably did. It probably did.
Look, if he wants to argue about it in an intelligent way rather than saying, making stupid comments designed to offend, use logic, as they say in the attic. Use logic and truth. Prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's fine. You can make arguments that say, well, I think it sounds a little extreme to say the body was moved, but you've got to, that's not the issue. This is not a litmus test on 50% plus one. What's more likely? Okay. So if you don't understand the law or how it works, be gone. Otherwise, if you want to have a legal discussion, that's the issue. This is not a discussion about whether something happened or not. It's about whether a case should be on trial in a court of law where the prosecution has a burden to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you can't satisfy that, then you should leave here the same way the DA's office should leave the courtroom. That's it. So make an argument or get gone.
Still laughing about boss in the attic.
You're going to simp for a guy like that. You might want to reevaluate your life choices, but let's move on.
Let's move on. I'm getting too much enjoyment out of the boss in the attic. Oh man. All the sectional Sofa King jokes came out too. I'm sorry. Some stuff just makes me laugh lately. I need to laugh. I wanted to ask more. We talked about the FBI, but there's so much more that she talked about. Chloe the dog. The fact that she never saw or heard Chloe when she went in the house that morning. Do you think that's going to come up with the other witnesses? Like, I would be asking every single one of them, like, where was Chloe?
Well, yes. I mean, the most important witnesses are going to be Brian and Nicole Albert, and they're foundational. They're going to establish that's our dog, and the dog sleeps in our bedroom, and he sleeps here, and he has a bed. And sometimes she may move around, but you would establish that she's a generally healthy dog who, most importantly, has like functional ears. Okay. She can hear. And the reality is, for the DA's sake, one of the things that I would be doing if I were them would be asking who has dogs. And again, I didn't see any of the jury selection, but the more dog owners that are on the jury, the worse for the DA, because again, who the hell is going to believe that a former police dog, German Shepherd with a biting problem, which means she's a little skittish, right? I mean, if she bites, I'm a dog whisperer. Dogs love me, so they won't bite me. But the point is, Jen McCabe opens the front door in the middle of the night, dark house. That alone, my house is bigger than the Albert house, but if somebody opened the front door and we were upstairs, but somebody just walked in the middle of the night, I guarantee you there's two dogs going crazy. Okay. Right away. Whatever. Comes up the stairs in the dark, opens the bedroom door where the dog presumably is, comes in the dark and starts yelling at Brian and Nicole about, oh my God. By the way, that was the testimony in the first trial, I believe, from both Alberts, that Jen McCabe came in like a screaming banshee, something like that. And you're to believe that this dog, Chloe, would have no reaction? No, I don't find that believable unless you have an explanation for where she is. And the problem is, none of these people ever have an explanation for anything on any bad facts. They just wish it away and try to throw it down the memory hole and pretend it doesn't exist. But the fact of the matter is, they all agree the dog was there that night, right? I mean, and they all say the dog was upstairs. because he wasn't downstairs biting John O'Keefe. All the witnesses say Chloe was upstairs. Well, Brian Albert went to bed upstairs. The dog's upstairs, which means he's in the bedroom. She's in the bedroom. Nobody hears a word. Again, is that worthy of belief? Probably not.
Even like chill dogs, if you wake them up, just like people, that's when they're grumpiest. So a dog with issues waking up, not unexpected. It's one thing if it's like every weekday at 9:30 somebody shows up. Then the dog gets used to the routine. But this is unexpected. This is like 5 a.m. Like, there's no way that dog wouldn't go crazy. Aiden just made a great comment too.
Before you make that comment,
go ahead.
Hold that
Okay,
comment.
go ahead. I'll hold it.
Another thing is this, and every dog owner knows this. When Jen McCabe does come upstairs and wake everyone up, and they're all going downstairs, and now the cops are down there, what does every dog owner know has to happen when a dog wakes up in the morning and everyone's awake?
They're gonna go out. They're gonna go pee. They're gonna eat. They want to, and they want to see who's there. They like even the good dogs. They want to go sniff and say, "Oh, it's Jen. I'm gonna sniff Jen. Hi, Jen," and then go back to their. They just want to, like anyone else. They want to see who's there.
There is no evidence that I recall at the first trial or anything else at any time, civilian, police officer, anyone who ever said, "We took the dog out to pee and fed the dog." That's what dog owners do. Even in something bad's going on, dog still has to go out.
Yeah.
That not happen unless she's not there. You can put that other one.
Turtle Boy says, why not just say the dog slept in the basement because strangers like Higgins were there and she's not good with strangers?
Because they overthink it at the time. They're probably not the brightest bulbs in the world. There is some degree of panic. And, they're not thinking 3 years later, we're going to be sitting here on a Friday night on YouTube analyzing why nobody seemed to take the dog out in the morning to pee. I mean, it's hard to remember all these things.
It's the problem, right? There's so much to remember.
Yep.
They lose track. That's how they always get caught in the cover up. They can't remember all the details of the lies.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the way I look at it is, you can agree or disagree whether they're lying or whatever. But again, to, our distinguished guest from earlier, it's a reasonable doubt situation. I mean, where is the dog? Why is there no evidence that the dog was there? Why is there no evidence that the dog was fed? Why is there no evidence the dog went out? Why did not a single person hear the dog? And again, you have to go back to the analysis. Everybody's focused on when Jen McCabe comes barging in, the dog doesn't bark. Well, how about a little later when there's 3 cops, 5 or 6 people hovering around downstairs? Nobody says Chloe was there. Who believes that? If you have a dog, they're going to gravitate to the noise. They're hungry. They need to go out. They come downstairs. This is not a 12-year-old dog who can't move. This is a dog who bites dogs and people.
Right. Got a bite history. I just want to make a reminder. I've seen some questions come in on the super chats. We read super chats at the end. If you have any questions you want to answer, just post them in the chat normally. If you don't see it posted, just keep posting it because eventually we'll post it up there. But no, we don't read super chats until the end of this discussion tonight. What about this plea deal thing? I thought that was really curious that they're bringing up a Karen plea deal before Karen's even arrested.
Well, it's a bad look, obviously. When you have, I think it was Matt McCabe who sent that text, who basically said, I mean, you have to break this down into multiple layers. So he says something along the lines of, hopefully she pleads quickly. If not, it's like a whole nother episode or whatever. So the first question, before you get to the timing of that, is the meaning of that. At this point, Karen's not arrested and they're wishing her to get arrested. Okay, hold that thought. And if she doesn't plea quickly, it's a whole other episode, which is code word for we're going to have to deal with this shit and we're in this. Doesn't mean they did anything, but what a strange reaction for people who had nothing more than the misfortune of having their close friend, the guy, the man in the snow, get killed on their front lawn. So on the surface, the statement looks terrible. And then you get to the timing of it, which is before she got arrested, which begs the question, how do these people know that she's going to get arrested? And before you make too much out of that, I mean, they could have told Peggy O'Keefe, we're going to make an arrest. That's not abnormal to tell family. And she may have told them, and then it becomes, not that big a deal. Or it could have been Proctor just told the Alberts, we're going to do that, which is a little more potentially sketchy. I mean, is it that big a deal? No, but it does show a closeness that, they're all trying to deny. Another one of Jen McCabe's big, everybody got it wrong when she told Tully, if you remember, that I never met Michael Proctor in person until 2023. And that's clearly a lie. But, that was Tully's fault. He got it wrong, along with other things. So I think the statement itself, the second part of the statement where he says, if she doesn't plead quickly, it's going to be a whole nother episode, is much worse than the fact that they had advance information. I don't think, I mean, being fair to the analysis here, I don't think that's that big a deal. I mean, Peggy could have told them, right?
Always Peggy. I wonder if Peggy said they're going, oh shit, I didn't say that.
Well, I don't know that she did. I'm saying it would not be abnormal in a arrest for a homicide that the police tell the victim's family, look, we're going to make an arrest in a few hours, or, that doesn't offend me in the least bit. But the second part, if she doesn't plead quickly, we have to deal with this. That is something that Hank Brennan calls consciousness of guilt.
Guilt. That's right. There's a lot of consciousness of guilt
from a lot of people
from that crew. Yeah. Yeah. Tell them the guy didn't come in the house.
Yeah.
It's a question that's coming up a lot tonight. Hockey_KC says, why did the defense bring up Jen McCabe's Apple Health crazy data? Can they bring her back on direct?
I mean, they could bring a witness back on direct, but there's no reason to bring Jennifer McCabe back. I mean, she's destroyed. Again, people like this guy in the chat who get all excited can argue till the cows come home. But, if they had more experience in courtrooms rather than chat rooms, they would understand that the way this works is you establish on cross these issues. And this is not an exercise like you see on Perry Mason. I mean, that's TV where the witness is busted and cries and says, okay, fine, Mr. Mason, I did it. That's not how it works in the real world. You make your points and then you really bring it home on summation. Or something I said the other day was, you have to prep the meal on cross before you serve dinner in summation. That's where you take it all and really bring it all out. So that's what that is.
These all these butt dials. They were calling them butt dials last trial, the first trial. And now it's inadvertent. Do you think that's going to be, is there a reason why they changed from butt dials to inadvertent, you think? Do you think that's planned, or do you think that just happened today?
Well, my first response to that is, does it matter? I mean, the verbiage. I mean, in some ways, butt dials or inadvertent are the same. I mean, that's two words generally meaning the same thing. The larger problem is not to get stuck in the language and say, there is no way that this woman in the span of, I think I even wrote this one down when I was hearing this, in like 20 minutes, made 7 calls in 19 minutes that she has no memory of at all. at least initially, and then they were inadvertent or butt dials. Again, not to beat the dead horse, but this is what you do in this profession. It's another example of why the macro conclusion is Jennifer McCabe is not worthy of belief. That's just not credible testimony. And I don't think there is a single person who would say that it is. And you know what's coming next, at least down the line, is the butt dial conversation between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, which, so McCabe's explanation does them no favors either, because it is the case of the butt dials. I mean, there's just so much nonsense and bullshit in the case that is coming from witnesses who, if you believe them, have no reason to do anything other than say, how do I help the police? We don't, our friend got killed apparently by this woman. Why are they having these conversations about live texting Kerry Roberts' interview from their house, from Jennifer McCabe's house, in the presence of Brian Albert or Matt McCabe, whatever it was? I mean, this is so abnormal. And they use all caps and exclamation points. Like, I thought we were very upset and traumatized. In the messages with Kerry Roberts that same day, I believe, I can't deal with this. This is like, all I want to do is throw up. That same day, she's telling the inner sanctum, she's telling them everything, and they're excited with exclamation points and hearts. Why are they going offline? We can't talk on text. What, we can't say we feel terrible about John O'Keefe's death on text? She did it with Kerry Roberts. These people are not credible. They're not worthy of belief. Doesn't mean they killed anyone. It doesn't mean anything like that. But in a reasonable doubt case, if you're still here, a friend from the chat, that's the kind of stuff that can lead to reasonable doubt.
It's so much that's moving parts on this. I just want just my dog's acting up. Charlie, be good. I'm just wondering, in terms of, I'm trying to think where I'm going with this, actually. Let's go to this question. I'm losing my brain. Greg says, what's Mark's opinion on AJ's adjustment in strategy between Wednesday and today?
I don't think there's as much an adjustment on strategy in that you have a very difficult witness. I mean, she's difficult. You know that going in, because she's always going to tell you, I don't remember, or I didn't say it, or I need to see it. And I think the better thing that you saw today than perhaps the other day was just do very classic, straightforward impeachment, which means the jury's going to hear what she said before she has the chance to play games and say, I need to look at it. And it's very simple. She says whatever she says at trial, and then you just direct her attention to her prior statement in the grand jury, And, at that proceeding, were you asked the following question, and did you give the following answer? And she's got choices. She can say, yes, I did, which means she's inconsistent under oath. She can say, no, I didn't, which is what she does sometimes. Or she can say, well, I don't remember. I'd have to look at it. Well, now you can show it to her, but you've already asked the question and you know where it's going. So I just think it was more a tweak in not style or strategy, but just method of impeachment for a very difficult witness.
I just thought of what I was thinking about is that the 227 search. When I was on that RKO show, they played this little clip today from Jennifer McCabe, basically just arguing and asking for the actual transcript or whatever it was of the 227 search. And it's just like, there's t-shirts about the 227 search, this is something that's come up in her life for the last 2 years. Why does she need to look at the report from Celebrite or whoever it was that they were, referencing there? on the 227 search. I mean, to me, that just showed how difficult she is. She's just being difficult to be difficult.
No, she's needling and trying to make them quit trying. And even before the actual substance of the search, I mean, there was argument over whether she did any Google search at that time of any kind, and whether it was Safari or using Google. And you had to argue about that before you even got to the search. Now, look, one of the things that I would have thought they might have asked, and I mean, you could still do this through Green because the records are going to come in, were to ask about the other searches. She Googled herself in this chain of searches when, my close friend was, and I'm traumatized and all I want to do is throw up and all of that. In the days going on, she Googled herself, and I believe she Googled herself and John O'Keefe together. Now, what do you think she's trying to see there? Is anybody not linking me to a murder, but does anybody know that I'm part of this in any way? That's a weird thing to do. And I also have a recollection, and if I'm wrong, someone can tell me I'm wrong, but also during this horrible time in these Google searches, I think she was shopping. I think she was doing some online shopping for clothes or something, which doesn't bother me. I mean, it's a free country, but it's a little weird when you're selling to the jury that all I can do is sit at home and I can't play this out in my mind and I can't do anything and I want to throw up. And by the way, when she was this upset, her husband was saying, we're going to miss the basketball game. Shut her up. I mean, this is not a good reflection on these people.
It's in the basketball. It's a high school basketball game too, right?
They're going to miss the game. Carrie Roberts, she's taking too long with her timeline, apparently. At this point, we're going to miss the game.
I mean, I enjoy watching high school sports, I got to say, but
I get it. And they're,
but yeah.
I mean, they're an active family in all of that, and that's fine. But if you're selling the stuff that they're trying to sell, all of this other stuff doesn't compute.
Doesn't compute. And about that search, what are the Google searches? She changed the story on that too, on where Karen asked her to do the search. First it was in the police car, but because there's evidence against that ever happening, now it's outside the car.
Well, that's the word we talked about earlier, which is everything with her is calculated and contrived based upon what happened earlier. I mean, look, the DA's theory this case is 1231, not 1245. Do you really think that if they didn't change the timeline, that you would have heard this ridiculous testimony where I can remember the 2 times looking out and texting at 1231, but I can't remember the rest? Do you really think she would not have gone all the way up to 1245 if that was the DA's theory? Of course she would have, which leads you again to say she's not worthy of belief. She's a chameleon. Okay, her testimony changes colors to fit whatever the theory of the day is. And whatever the reason is for that, whether it's an incredible memory or just that's what she now believes happened, whether you think it's lying, either way, she's not worthy of crediting and she's not worthy of belief. That's the exact opposite of credible.
Really?
Reliable. She's unreliable.
She's unreliable. I wouldn't count on her.
No.
Says it's amazing that her 911 call that she said there was a man on the lawn, and during her text messages she said tell them the guy didn't come in the house. That was actually her husband that said don't come in the house, don't tell him the guy didn't come in the house. But comments, but it is her dear friend. I mean, these are the things to me that I feel like most of the media is missing the boat. Like I feel like this trial should be a laughing stock at this point with all of the stuff like we talked about, like just the changing stories over and over again.
When
I mean,
she said that I called 911 and my only focus was on getting John help. I didn't even want to go ask Brian Albert because all that stuff. But was confronted with, you just called him a man on the lawn. You never said he's a police officer. And she said, no, why would I do that? They're here to help everyone. Now, the problem she has with this is she comes from a police family, okay? And no one's going to tell you with a straight face that 911 and the police should treat people differently in responding to a crime. But I think we'd all be pretty naive if you say, holy crap, the officer down on another cop's lawn and he's in trouble, that the best way to motivate a police officer to act is to say officer down. And if you don't think she knows that, that's ridiculous, because she comes from a police family. Okay, Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, I mean, her close friend, John O'Keefe, is a police officer. I mean, rather than just say, you know what, in the moment I was panicking. No, she fights the point and says, no, I didn't. Why would I say he's a cop? They're coming. She's too defensive. I don't even remember the question, but she volunteered something that was not nefarious. I mean, that's the classic Shakespeare, right? Thou doth protest too much, methinks. I mean, who said anything about nefarious? I mean,
that's Jen over and over.
But she's armed for battle. Like, she's waiting and ready to go and unleash when necessary. So again, that's not credible.
Something you talked about the other night. Actually, before I even get to this, I should note Bederow was right again. I mean, the last time you came on the show, I was still nervous about it. I always get nervous about the ARCA stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, she's gonna rule. You pretty much said no, she's gonna rule immediately. She did. She ruled immediately, just like you said, and she ruled exactly the way that you said she would. It's funny because all of these Kevins of the world, they claim you don't know any. It's so funny. I'm reading his shit and he's saying Bederow doesn't get anything right, and I keep track of this. You get almost every. There's been I think one time you didn't get something right. Like almost every time you're right on this shit, and Kevin's not right. It's just hilarious that. It's almost like you know what you're doing. You know the law. Like you have some experience.
It's a little more, well, I won't even, what's the point with that guy?
Yeah.
But no, that was always going to happen because you can't preclude exculpatory witnesses who are going to help the defense and could theoretically win her the case because of what the lawyers did. I mean, if anything else, all you would be doing is setting up not only a due process claim for the right to present a defense, but you would be setting up an ineffective assistance of counsel appeal, because the argument on appeal would be, I'm just a client, and if my lawyers screwed up with discovery such that the judge precluded the evidence, to the extent that that was the proper ruling, then my lawyers screwed up and I got deprived of my right to effective assistance of counsel. That was never going to be the case. That was always a spectacle by Brennan designed to get some intelligence. And, obviously the judge took an opportunity to, kick them in the head and, blame them for everything. But they were never going to be precluded, and they were never going to be precluded from offering, the rebuttal, if you will, to the prosecution expert, for a very simple reason, because that's what experts do. They give opinions and they offer analysis on why they think the other guy's expert is wrong. That's normal. It happens in every case.
There's another thing you brought up. I loved it too. And I asked a question, but I want to add on to it. Where the hell is the timeline? Can they force Jennifer McCabe and her sister to give up whatever written timeline they had created? Is that something that they can actually request and force?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the discovery demands they made historically were, but I mean, the party you would be moving against is the DA. I mean, this clearly, unless we're missing something, had to be in their possession, custody, or control. They must have known about it. Everybody's talking about it, as you see. And it was used very effectively on cross about, whether, Kerry and Jen were looking at it as they were huddling for the grand jury when Kerry Roberts gratuitously offered that she heard something that she really didn't hear, and then blamed on the timeline, and then, admitted to the feds, I never heard that. But the other problem with this timeline in them not having it is, does it have, this is what Kerry says, this is what Jen says, is it consistent with what they said now? We don't know. Or more likely, as the defense alleges, and Kerry basically conceded by blaming the timeline for her inaccurate grand jury testimony. The timeline told me, right? The real issue is another reason why neither Kerry Roberts nor Jennifer McCabe is worthy of belief is that this timeline feels like they created this hive mind, a hybrid of the two of them, and you don't know who the hell remembered what or where this came from. And over the course of time, it just becomes the truth. And that's Kerry's defense to not intentionally lying, by the way. By claiming she didn't intentionally lie, she basically kneecapped herself and Jennifer McCabe by saying, I looked at the timeline and that's what I thought.
I think I just, so much of this makes me chuckle. Like, we got to come up with a timeline.
Also, what's really disturbing is, like, any sane prosecutor in 2022 had to have been aware of this timeline, and forget arresting someone, trying someone. You want to get to the truth. You would say, what is this timeline? I need it. And if there are inconsistencies, you have to deal with it. And you have to wonder, like, why didn't they deal with that? Why didn't they deal with Kerry Roberts, what was her obviously materially inaccurate testimony, even if you don't think it was intentional? I'm still stunned they didn't advise her to get a lawyer. That's what an ethical prosecutor would have done, because what they would have really wanted to do was say, I've got some questions here about why you said that. And it bothered the DA, because at the first trial, they never asked Kerry Roberts about the 227 Google search. And if they thought it was credible, they would have, but they knew something. You know what they knew? Well, she kind of told the FBI it's bullshit. So I guess we can't do that.
You think that she would have an attorney, huh? That they would offer her an attorney?
They should have not offer her one, but recommend she
But yeah, tell her that she can have one, that she should get one.
I think an ethical prosecutor, upon learning what she told the FBI, by the way, I'm going to assume Adam Lally did none of this, would have called her in and said, listen, you testified in a grand jury about hearing, Karen Reed asked Jennifer McCabe to Google, Hauss-Long hypothermia. Remember, it even changed. The words changed, which makes it even worse. And you then went and that's a sworn statement under oath. And then when the FBI came calling, they gave you what lawyers call 1001 warnings, 18 USC 1001. It's a federal crime to make material false statements to federal agents. And she said, well, I absolutely never heard that. How Lally or whoever was handling it back then was okay with that and thought the right thing to do was, I just won't ask her about it at trial, as opposed to being concerned, am I getting schnookered here? Is there a problem? I mean, when they got all these TUI materials, remember, there's no exculpatory evidence. Okay, guess what? That was exculpatory, because that kneecapped Kerry Roberts' credibility. They see that. They see that Jennifer McCabe lied to the FBI. They see that the ARCA report completely contradicts everything in their case. And their position in court was, there's no exculpatory evidence here. Their toes are tapping. We're ready for trial. That probably tells you more about the Norfolk County DA's office than anything else in this entire spectacle, because what they should have done at that point was call a timeout and say, we're not dismissing the case, but we need to reevaluate what the hell we're doing and make sure we're on the right side of this. They get Proctor's messages. They get all the other phone records with all this other stuff. An ethical prosecutor right then would have at least taken a pause and looked into it. Their position was to send this McLaughlin to court with a defiant attitude and say, there's nothing exculpatory in here. I mean, the place is a disgrace.
Do they do any ethics training, you think, in Norfolk County, the DA's office? I mean, it seems like they really do lack ethics.
I mean, every lawyer has to take ethical courses and pass a professional responsibility, all of that. But I mean, do they do any Brady training in that office? I don't know. I mean, several months ago, you can remember when the Proctor stuff came out in between the trials, they hired a third party. They had to outsource somebody to tell them what was Brady and what was not. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of your business. I mean, I go back to what I know when I was a financial advisor, we had ethics trainings too. Like we had even like all the licensing exams. A lot of the questions were like what you can do and not do legally, and you just got to know what you're a professional in. Like, it just seems like these are the basics. This is like for us, the exam was like, this is the roadmap. This is when you have a question, you go back to what you were trained, what you passed the examination, what, the ethics trainings. I just don't see how they can not have that.
I can't fathom being a prosecutor or working with another prosecutor in a case like this. And then one day they get all this material and they come up to you and they say, hey, let me run something by you. Our theory of this case is that this, crazy drunk lady mowed down her boyfriend and all that. Okay, whatever. And we just got all of this material from the federal government. They're investigating the investigation. That's without more. That's at the time, that's troubling. But on top of that, they hired a national leading, biomechanical engineer firm, whatever they even are, who are pretty solid in their view that no car accident here. Okay. And we got all these text messages from the lead investigator, and he is just a scumbag. Okay. And on top of that, he's evincing bias. All this stuff is going on. And I just can't imagine, from the background that I had, from the prosecutor background, if there was like a roundtable discussion that everybody would just say, who's ordering lunch and when does trial start? Which is essentially what they did. That they didn't at least say, should we maybe look at this and maybe figure out that we're comfortable? The Kerry stuff, the Jen stuff. No, they don't. They just press on. And that's not what ethical prosecutors do. Now, if they had investigated and satisfied themselves, we're going to go forward, then, whatever. I mean, I think that would be crazy too, but I would at least respect that a little more than, going zombie like they did.
Going zombie. It's a Bederowism. I love it. Hockey KC says, when Kerry perjured herself, could defense ask for a dismissal right then based on false grand jury?
No, testimony? I mean, again, perjury is like a very specific term. I mean, there's certainly an argument that she committed perjury, but nobody is literally making that conclusion. The testimony would have to be material. The testimony was in the very first April 22 grand jury. Was the Google search material to securing an indictment? She claims it was an accident, although I don't find that particularly credible. But that's not the kind of thing that would lead a judge to dismiss a case right there. It could lead a judge to call up the parties. And to me, I'm still stunned that nobody does this, because where I come from, what normally would happen is either the prosecutor, sometimes the defense, although I'm not sure I would have done it in this case, or the judge would call up and say, do we have a Fifth Amendment issue here? And does this witness need counsel before I allow her to go down this path because this is potentially troubling. But in Norfolk County, it's just press on and, whatever happens, happens. I mean, in that regard, I feel bad for her. I mean, I can't believe no one in the DA's office at any time advised her to get counsel.
Question I have no idea about. JA217 says, what will happen now that Hank is on the Brady list? I'm not sure. Is he on the Brady list? Is this about the money situation people are talking about? What is that?
I don't fully understand the so-called Massachusetts Brady list, about whether it's an official finding or it's like an internet thing. I mean, in New York, they created this list. Lawyers colloquially call it the naughty list, for prosecutors who are found to have, but it's like a finding, though. It's bad. I mean, it's a finding. They get on the list, and a lot of times the prosecutor will make a disclosure in any case involving a police officer or a lawyer or whatever about it. I don't know that that's what's happened to him, so I don't want to smear him in the sense of saying he was found responsible for a Brady violation. I don't know that.
In here, he's one of the biggest fundraisers for Karen Reed, if not the biggest. Him and his wife. So he's got a question. I throw it right up there because it's Nick Rocco. He says, Mark, can you help me understand the Lank house situation?
Well, the day before they went to Lank's house, it looks like Jen McCabe and Nicole Albert were having a discussion on what do we know, who knows what. Let me know if you hear anything. And there was some discussion about getting information. And then there was that message about, let's not do this on text. We'll learn more tomorrow. What happened the next day? This is the day that Kerry Roberts and Jen McCabe claim they went to sit in the car and hang out with Lank's wife while dropping off, one of the girls. The Kerry Roberts testifies different than Jennifer McCabe on a few things. Jennifer McCabe testifies differently than the way she told it to Tully. So they're all over the place, all of them. Jennifer McCabe is internally inconsistent on whether they were there to drop off or pick up, depending on whether you believe her testimony or what Tully wrote when she interviewed him. This meeting was never disclosed. They only did it when they found her Life 360. The other problem is Kerry Roberts claimed that we never went to 34 Fairview. And she was quite specific about that, I believe. And Jennifer McCabe, this time, I don't think she did it last time, if any of this even came up. But again, I think she's aware of the evidence, says, well, we stopped by, but we didn't drop in. So, she's, again, we're going to fight over stopped by versus dropped by or dropped in. And then they go there and claim that they just sit in a car for 45 minutes with the very investigator that Jennifer McCabe had called the day before to say, oh, I remembered the important thing about the taillight that required her to call Lank after the McCabes and Alberts had huddled up in the home and remembered it. So, I mean, how does it look on its face? It looks like they're getting their story straight. And if it's not the case, why are, once again, Kerry and Jen inconsistent about where they were going, why they were going? It just doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Nor does it sound entirely believable or worthy of belief that they would go and just sit in the car rather than just go in the house. And, if Jen McCabe got out of the car to go to the bathroom, well, now you're in the house. Why don't you just all go in the house? Why don't you have a cup of coffee? I mean, a terrible thing has happened. But again, they seem to create stories to fit facts that are undeniable. I mean, there's that old adage about deny what you can, admit what you must. That's like an old adage that prosecutors use. And this is a perfect example. You deny, they never tell anyone they went to lengths. Deny it. but then the cops find out, well, we have proof that you went there, so you can't deny it.
Story.
So I'm going to admit what I must. Fine, I was at lengths, but not really. We were just in the car hanging out with the wife. That's classic dissembling.
Yeah, was it drop off or pickup? That's what Jackson wanted to know.
That's because he knew that there were multiple stories going on there.
That's right. Crazy. It's they get caught in their little fibs over and over again.
Well, it's hard to lie again and again and again, over and over. And the way Jen McCabe generally deals with that is, I don't remember. And then you can confront her with the prior statement, and she's going to either say one of two things. They got it wrong, or that's right, but they forgot to put the other part I said. That is her.
That's not exactly what I meant. Yeah.
That's her standard default answer for anything. I mean, I don't believe in this entire trial she acknowledged one inconsistent statement, when in fact there are probably 30. It's everyone but her.
But Jen.
12 people, between the cops, the court reporters, the statements. It's not worthy of belief.
I can't imagine being her husband, Matt McCabe. He must lose every argument with her, every single thing. She's like, yes, honey, you're right. You're right.
I'm just talking about her testimony. I don't care about her homework.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking, because she just seems like that type of person. She's never, ever wrong. She's never. Anna Banana says, do you think that other judges are discussing Judge Bev's decisions and how she is running that courtroom? I will say there is one retired Massachusetts judge, right? Go ahead. You want to talk about that? She's been saying some things.
I was going to laugh and say, well, I know at least one retired judge who is.
Yeah, Carol.
It's either Erskine or Erskine. I don't know her. Very smart, obviously. Very judicious, even in her tweeting. Very, acting like a judge. I don't want to comment.
She's a judge. You can tell. Like, she's a stickler. I like her.
The only thing that she's been really opining on is, in her view, how egregiously wrong and improper Cannone's behavior is in terms of exhibiting bias in front of the jury in her legal rulings on objections and things like that. She's been very critical of that.
Yeah, even the language she uses, like, I'll let you have it, like that type of stuff. She's just like that. You're not supposed to do that.
It's not appropriate. And I mean, I said this maybe to you or someone else, but the quickest way to say it is, when there's an objection, that's an issue presented to the judge that requires a legal decision on whether to sustain or overrule. And when she says, I'll allow it, it's almost like as if you're bothering her, but go ahead, for what it's worth. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't pay much attention to it, but I don't care. And then the other thing that she does is she's like, can you answer that?
Yeah.
So what she does is she abdicates her judicial responsibility. She's the one who's supposed to make a legal decision, and she throws it to the witness to make a factual determination, and then says, well, that's the answer, so who cares? I mean, that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Strange. It is.
She's the judge. She wears the robe. When there's an objection, you're the judge. You're supposed to make the ruling, period.
Question, how do you think the jury's feeling after today? That's the big question none of us really know, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're not the hardest working jury in the world. I mean, even today, I thought they were going to go to 4, and Mr. Slate blew the 5-minute whistle at like 3:30 or something. So
is that more the judge though in the court than the jury? Like, what do you think?
I don't know. It was 3:30 or thereabouts, and when they were going to start the cross of the last witness, she said to David, "I'll give you 5 minutes." Not for the whole cross. That's not what I mean, but like, I'll give you 5 minutes today, which was
before we close, yeah.
But that was nowhere near 4. So, I don't know.
Tough to know. I mean, that's the big question too. Like, how is the jury taking all this in? Because I feel like they've had so much thrown at them. even beyond the technical stuff. The technical stuff just flies over my head a lot of times.
Well,
When that like expert was talking today at the end, I'm just like, I have no talking about the blood alcohol. We did this conversion, that conversion, this, blah, 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 blah. But this just the people and just the statements. I just wonder if they're able to keep up with this. Honestly,
I mean, there are ebbs and flows, and let's be honest. I mean, it's like a 2-month trial, which is probably 7 weeks too long from normal trials, general trials that people are generally used to, and stuff can get lost. But the key is summation. That's when the lawyer has to drive it all home, pull it all together, and as we said, serve the dinner. I mean, that's the time to eat. So, but they've got to get the evidence out, and it's just, it's a slog. I mean, the witness today, obviously, after Jen McCabe was, pretty boring. It's not her fault. She's actually a very pleasant, pretty good witness, demeanor-wise, professional. I mean, you haven't really heard the cross that much. There's nothing much to cross, but it's pretty boring testimony hearing about the accrediting of a, blood testing lab versus a hospital and what it all means and that kind of stuff.
question keeps coming up tonight. Kathleen XXX says, when defense is trying to impeach a witness, when does it take place? At what point?
Well, I think impeach a witness that's just a term of art. That just means you're trying to discredit them. I don't think that
there's no formal process. People keep getting confused about this. It's just basically you're trying to discredit them.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. There is a formal pattern and process to impeach a witness with a prior inconsistent statement. You can't just have a witness who says the car is red and you can't just yell at them and say, well, didn't you say it was blue previous? You have to lay a foundation and a predicate. And are you impeaching or refreshing a recollection? This can get really wonky, but you do have to do it the right way when you're trying to use prior inconsistent statements or documents. And it can often matter. Is it the witness's own statement or something else? When you're refreshing someone's recollection, you can use anything. You could ask, would this napkin refresh your recollection? But when it's impeaching with what you said, you can't force them to adopt another person's statement. You have to call that witness. So when she says Tully got it wrong and all these other, then okay, fine. Then you know what? We'll deal with this with Tully. And when Proctor got it wrong, it's him. Like, there is a method to the madness.
The one I'm looking for. Glamour Sue says, do you think that Jen destroyed the Commonwealth's case with her talking about the cracked taillight when she was screaming at the end?
I think what she did was exhibit once again why she is not worthy of belief and why what she says is not reliable and why it's not credible. She had previously said cracked before, even though she initially didn't mention anything to the cops. At this trial, she said it was like busted up. I don't remember the exact words. And then when she was kind of on the ropes a little bit at the end and a little getting, tuned up a little bit, she went back to cracked. So which is it? Why are we going back and forth? I don't know. But what I do know is you can't credit what she's saying because she's not reliable. And if she's not reliable, she's not worthy of belief. And if she's not worthy of belief, she's not credible. And that's it.
Question about the judge, to follow up on what we were saying earlier. Can the defense request the judge say sustained or overruled for the record to be clear? That comes from my friend. My best friend is a goose.
I think that's a good comment, and I don't know why she just doesn't do it. That's what you're supposed to do. And just party makes an objection, the court should just say overruled, sustained. And if one of the lawyers doesn't understand why, in a more traditional court, they might say, Your Honor, can I ask the basis? And in that court, I know that's verboten. You can't do that. So you'd have to come up to sidebar and you'd say, what's the problem here? What she does sometimes is like, ask it different and then you can have it. But I've also noticed she's not consistent. Okay. There are so many leading questions that Brennan asks. I mean, especially on redirect. His redirects are about 98% lead. You can't lead on redirect. Can't do it. And she allows it. And every now and then you'll get an objection and she'll sustain it or ask it differently and he'll change a word, but it's still leading and she'll say, no, he can have that or it's fine. And the biggest problem with her.
And the same question. It's so funny. One word change, the same question. She lets it go.
Said this before the first trial or during the first trial too. The one thing as a lawyer you want is consistency. Like know what's likely to happen. And one of the things with this judge, her rulings appear to be inconsistent.
His one. I like this one from Hannes. Says, how does Brennan feel after Jen, the witness? How do you think Brennan is feeling?
I don't know, but you can only judge by the way it ended, which is not good. He had all lunch to think about, am I going to redirect her? So he had a lifeline to really, now he can't talk to her. Okay. That's the problem. You can't go prep her. She's on her own at this point. And when he comes back, the only thing he asks her on redirect are these ridiculous texts between Kerry and her days later, which again, 90% of them should have been inadmissible, but they don't really establish anything anyway. But he didn't even attempt to redirect her where Alan had drawn blood, and he drew a lot of blood. I mean, the cross-examination of Jennifer McCabe was death by 1,000 cuts. She's bleeding everywhere over the course of 2 days. And he didn't even attempt to rehabilitate her on a single point from which she had been successfully impeached. The only thing he did was say, well, since you asked about these text messages, I'm going to ask about these, which I don't even think was proper. They weren't even part of the same chain, and it was just her and Kerry. But in doing that, he also allowed Alan to recross and easily establish the difference between the two texts. Is that's you and Kerry having all of this sadness, but she's not part of the tight group where you guys are plotting and inquiring and informing and doing other stuff, and when he asked her on, I guess the other thing he asked her on redirect was about her cooperation. All that did was allow him to reemphasize, meaning Alan, her contacts with the FBI, at which point, Jennifer McCabe went off the rails and lashed out with, the FBI is not going to do anything because they were impressed with what I had to say. I mean, so if that's all he was attempting to do on redirect, it didn't work. The recross made it much worse. And if you weren't even going to try to rehabilitate the bad stuff, then he probably should have done nothing. And under the old adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should. There are times where you just don't cross, even though you can. What's the point? So I think he kind of screwed up with the redirect, which really didn't establish anything. I mean, he wanted to show these texts. All he did was reemphasize the bad text. He wanted to show that Jennifer McCabe was cooperative. Well, yeah, with the Canton police and the state police. But when the FBI came knocking, you lied, panicked. So I think if he thinks that this was a good week for them, given the burden of proof, given what happened with Whiffen, given what happened with McCabe, on top of what had already happened with Kerry Roberts, what had already happened to some extent with Nuttall, they're 2 weeks through it, and this is a pretty bumpy ride.
Yeah, no one's coming out shining so far for the prosecution in terms of those kind of key players there.
No, and I mean, we don't have to talk about Whiffen all night, but that was a kind of witness where they need a home run. I mean, remember, they have to not win the battle of experts. They need to annihilate and overwhelmingly crush the defense experts, because if Whiffen leaves room for possible doubt on key points, then you're talking reasonable doubt. And he kind of did, at least on some of them. And even though his opinion was still airtight in his mind about the Google search, he did admit another program still shows it, and they are every bit as credible as us. I mean, look, I think he was honest. I don't think he's in the tank or corrupt. I would not get all tinfoil hat. I think he was very honest, but I don't think he was perfect for the prosecution for a lot of reasons.
Somebody in the green room. We're trying to have a reunion. I think they're coming. Oh, I think we're ready. We've been waiting for this for a little while. We need to have the 3Ms back together, at least for a moment tonight. What's up, brother?
Can't hear you guys at
all.
There?
I'm
gonna dip out and come back in.
Oh no!
It's a hell of an entry. We got to work on his people skills and like promotion. That was a tough rollout for him. Come on back and try that again.
Come on, technical. This is the world we live in. Oh, I'm just laughing. I have to laugh today. There's so much going on here. It's a good question from Sammy. If we're trying to have the 3M reunion, we'll let this one fill in the gap here. Sammy says, aside from Jen McCabe, who are the most damaging witnesses for the Commonwealth and why? What do you think, Mark? Who else besides Jen? I got my one.
So far?
No, well, maybe so far, but I think you just went through them. I'm thinking going forward, like what? Because you've just went through the list of them. We know who the problems are so far.
Well, Brian,
Who else hasn't come yet that you think is going to be the big issue? Higgins, yeah.
Higgins. Again, when you're dealing with a reasonable doubt situation and what you're talking about, I mean, I think that waterfall video and his text messages, both to John O'Keefe and Karen, are problematic. And I also think when we get to the mystery of Higgins's Jeep, that becomes problematic. And I think people may wonder if, Karen came careening down the street. What if the Jeep was there? Might she hit? I just think Higgins is vulnerable. McCabe has already hurt them with obviously contrived testimony, willingness to lie, that sort of thing. Now, when you get Higgins and Brian Albert and words come out about their butt dials, the stuff comes out about dumping their phones, preservation orders, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just a really ugly look. But I mean, at the end of the day, the most important witness for them is going to be the witnesses who establish a car accident at a certain time. I mean, so it becomes their accident reconstruction, and if they're the people that are going to give the Lexus data or whatever, I mean, at this point, it's all they have, right? I mean, their civilian witnesses are not going to do anything anyway. So I think, although it may be less interesting, they need this to be a science case. I mean, they're trying to avoid Proctor mentioning him as much as they can. They clearly are trying to present this case in a very disorganized manner, which almost feels like to bury some of this so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? You've gone
overload them with details. Absolutely.
Opening statement based on Nuttall, which is one of the most bizarre things I've seen. He's the first witness, and then you jump to Kerry Roberts. You do another EMT or whatever, and then you end up with Whiffen and then McCabe, and now we're doing blood alcohol. I mean, now we're playing a few clips here and there. I mean, it's a very strange manner, unless you think I think maybe trying to make it confusing before the science people come. The real science people, I mean the accident people.
I'm also really looking forward to Matt McCabe. I just something about that guy. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're still in their case in chief. You're only 2 weeks into it, and when you're a prosecutor, this is supposed to be the strong part of the case, right? It's your case, your witnesses. The defense hasn't done anything yet, but they do appear to be drawing blood on every key witness. And it may not be readily apparent as things move in real time, but if you're familiar with this and you know the skill of the lawyers and how to sum up and whatnot, when you look at like people like Whiffen and McCabe and Roberts, I mean, damage has been done.
Blood. Yeah, blood's been drawn. A lot. It's like a Ginzo knife, you know. It's slice and dice. What's up, Mazza You're back on the show. What's the 3Ms reunited? Let's try this again. How you doing?
It's about time. Yeah, my audio's back. This is fantastic. You know, Mike, you're not supposed to do victory dancing and celebrating victory until after the trial.
I knew you were going to bring up that.
Yeah, I was coming right away. I'll say one thing about Jen. If she was possessing the launch codes to protect this entire country, I could trust her not to give it up, because she's not going to ever give up anything. This 227 Google search confrontation that took place in court, I got to catch up on it this evening, I should say. I mean, they literally, she just denied it. She acted like it didn't even exist. I mean, she acted like it didn't happen in no way, shape, or form. And it was just kind of really striking to just see how much Alan Jackson pressed that issue. And ultimately, she's just not real. I don't recall ever Googling anything at that time of day. And it goes back to everything. Why does Cellbrite have that showing up on the record then? No, even Ian Whiffen, for example, that's there. 227. It says Hosslong to die in the cold at 227, and it's irrefutable. But I think the big message here and everything is what Mark just said moments ago, which is that damage has been done, and that's an absolute fact. And when we look at a case that's all about reasonable doubt, that's exactly what the defense has established over and over and over again throughout this trial so far. And really, all we can hope for now is that we have a jury that is picking up on all of this, which I think it's so important why Alan Jackson opened up the way he did with her about the feds. He couldn't obviously mention feds, but he kind of tapped into that right off the bat. And he also tapped into everybody's association. Who knows who? What's the 6 degrees of separation between whose family, who's connected to who's connected to what. And I thought that was a very masterful job by Alan Jackson, the way he conducted himself. I thought the duration of time that he had her on the stand was perfect. I was shocked it ended today with her on the stand. I actually was thinking it might go till Monday, but no, it was all wrapped up today. But again, that 227 Google search is really something that creates doubt in people's head. It's being argued. She Googled it at 6 o'clock in the morning again, or just opened up again, what have you. But I thought one of the big points that Alan Jackson made today was when he was talking about waiting for the Canton police to arrive when they had made the phone call, which is basically the homeowner of 34 Fairview Road qualifies as someone capable of providing emergency aid to someone in need. Well, waiting for the police, one would think that knocking on the door and alerting this particular homeowner would make a lot of sense, especially considering the same individual later had no issue entering his home through an unlocked door and entering his bedroom. So that's a big thing. And anyone that's ever been in a crisis situation where there's more than a couple of people knows that you can always defer responsibilities. There were 3 women there. John was in crisis. Someone could have knocked on that door. And why not alert them? Now, on redirect, Hank Brennan comes back and he says, well, did any other neighbors come out? Did any other neighbors come out? It was kind of I thought it was an argument that didn't really bear much water, because at the end of the day, neither did the homeowner come out. Nobody would have known unless they knocked on those doors, which tells me Alan Jackson's point strikes the hardest, which is you went to alert them later in the morning. Why not alert them while you're waiting for the Canton police to show up? And she tried to paint herself almost as a hero, someone that cared about him. I was there. I was trying to help him. I was trying to do my due diligence, so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, does that stop you from saying, hey, Karen, can you go knock on the door and alert this house? Can you, hey, Carrie, can you go knock on the door and alert this house? Doesn't necessarily have to be her, but she could have also at some point done that, which again creates reasonable doubt about why you have someone that owns the house not coming out of his home and various issues. So those are some of my biggest takeaways from today and throughout the cross-examination.
I think the finer point to what you just said with the way they ended, and it was very, dramatic and all of that. And he knew the witness by then, and he knew that she was going to fall in the trap and take the cheese. And she did. In building up how you didn't get a first responder, you didn't do this, you waited here, everything you just said. And he's talking about, how do you know, Nicole didn't answer the phone earlier. The lights are out. No one's coming out. In other words, not just John O'Keefe. How can it be that you're not concerned about the people in the house? And that was the cheese question. And she just snatched it right up because she's like, basically, because I knew at that time that Karen had a busted taillight and hit him. That is ridiculous. Okay. And the best evidence of that is not a single police officer said that Jen McCabe said that. And more importantly, not a single police officer said what we talked about earlier. Ma'am, can you come over here? Can you tell me what, I heard you say I hit him. This woman says you said the same thing. Your taillight apparently is a thing. We're being told Karen was drunk out of her mind. Did they give her any sobriety tests? Did they smell her breath? No, they did none of this. So the point is, Jen McCabe's answer, once again, about why she didn't go in the house, wait for it, is not worthy of belief. Nothing she says when confronted with indisputable facts makes a lot of sense. And rather than just kind of say, you know what, in the drama, I just didn't think of it, which would have been a better answer. I mean, even if not true, I'm not encouraging that, obviously. Right. That at least some people might believe. But when she doubles down and says, she said I hit him, she had a broken taillight, and there were 45 pieces of taillight there, which of course she would not know at that time. She is just self-immolating. She's lighting herself on fire on the witness stand and just getting destroyed and putting, the cherry on the sundae as to why she's not worthy of belief. She just can't give a calm, honest answer, even when she feels she's getting pinned in. Her natural instinct is to lash out and dig in, and it doesn't do the prosecution any favors.
Right. Over answer. That was another thing I thought she did a lot, was try to over answer with the intention to try to come off as more trustworthy. I think was probably her intention, was to try to be, I'm going to over answer this. I'm going to try to make it seem like I'm open and honest and willing to have a conversation. But I thought another great thing too, to this point, about the cracked taillight. She had made mention about a cracked taillight. Now there's a big difference between a cracked taillight and a shattered taillight. And when Alan Jackson crossed her on this today, she goes, well, I did say crack, but with missing pieces. Well, I mean, if anybody's ever seen a crack in anything, it's usually like a hairline, or maybe it's a small fracture, for example, of any item. But when you talk about something that's shattered, I mean, if you have a couple guys in a comedy movie walking a 8x10, whatever, a sheet glass or whatever, and they drop it, it shatters all over the place. That's shattered. I mean, a shattered taillight is essentially the equivalent of annihilated. And really, I would say if someone was describing the taillight as cracked, then that would in no way be consistent with the taillight that had the amount of missing pieces that the police department is claiming that they had acquired at the crime scene, or even in the days and weeks later after the crime scene was closed. That was just very notable to me.
All of this, by the way, you take all of these statements, and the way you wrap it up, it's with the FBI stuff. And you just say, look, the FBI came, they're not there to intimidate her. They told her, we're here to investigate the circumstances that that led to John O'Keefe's death. But, she's out of her comfort zone, right? It's not the Proctor people. It's not the Canton police, the Canton cabal. It's all gone. And her first instinct, forget the lie about her name. They didn't identify themselves. I don't even care about that. but her first instinct upon being approached by them was to run into her house and make panic phone calls and then lie about it when she knew it was a crime to lie to the feds. And the argument that should be made in summation is, and you know, it's going to be from an orator of the skill level that you're very familiar with, who knows how to look a jury and get all and say, she's not fooling me, ladies and gentlemen, or members of the jury. She's fooling you. Okay. And if you think there's conclusive proof that she's willing to tell FBI agents all these lies, okay, for the simple reason that they're there to try to find out what's going on with the investigation of John O'Keefe, if she's willing to lie to them after being told it's a crime to lie, why does that make the oath that she took before you any more serious when you already have demonstrated proof that she's willing to violate it? And then put it in the context of everything that her story is talking about, which doesn't make sense. And then you say she's not worthy of belief. And she's not. I mean, I don't know how any sensible person will ever credit her.
Sensible person. That's what you've said this before. Worried about having a kook on the jury. That's what I'm worried about again.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
the biggest fear is that the way they did jury selection in this case, yes, you can't brainwash and get rid of the kooks.
Sucks. Like you said, they should have had one of the big questions. I think what you said earlier, dogs. If they were a dog owner, I want them on that jury.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're the defense, dog owners are definitely. I mean, look, they still got to question one at a time at the bench. It's not like they literally couldn't question jurors. But I mean, we've done this before, so we don't have to beat this to death. But you need people in the box. You run these questions, see how they react, line up your peremptory strikes. Doing one at a time, it's just on a murder case of this magnitude. I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, this is too serious for everyone to deprive the lawyers on both sides the right to know how to use their peremptory strikes. So I mean, we've beat that to death, but it's terrible.
I want to make a note. We had Andrea Burkhardt in here. People are going crazy in the chat. They love Andrea. We love Andrea. She's a great YouTuber, attorney. Thank you. Andrea, she gave us a super chat tonight. We're reading the super chat at the end. If you have questions, post them in the chat right now. Not a super chat. We'll definitely read the super chats all at the end. We had a question. Where was that question? Not the immunity one. I'm sorry. I had it up here and I lost it. This is funny when I'm looking for this.
Me and Mark will talk about the Celtics and their path to banner 19 in the meantime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what going on Monday, right?
Yeah, I think they're back Monday, yeah.
We don't know. We time to be determined, I saw.
Oh, is it? Okay.
All the nervous
TBA.
Knicks fans around here, they're all excited. And, you know, when the Knicks are good, they're an
Knicks
incredible.
are going down.
No, when the Knicks are like good, this town has a real buzz, like the old school Knicks fans. But at the same time, it feels so ominous. They all know what's coming, and what's coming is just a Celtics ass kicking.
Yeah,
5 teams, maybe 6. It's the playoffs, but
right.
I don't know any Knicks fan around here who seriously believes that they're going to win. I mean, they have an incredible player, obviously, in Jalen Brunson.
Yeah,
but they don't have it.
No, we got Drew Holiday to guard him or Derek White to guard him, and then you got they got Karl Anthony Towns. We got Kristaps Porzingis, and they don't have anybody I think they can handle Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So it'll be 4 games to 1 or 4 games to 2 Celtics. They should be able to. I think it's going to be Knicks and then probably the Cavs, then probably the Thunder in the NBA Finals, and that's probably what it's going to be. I imagine they're going to get through everybody and win this title. Just as long as they don't 1985 or 2009 this thing, they should be okay.
Well, 2009 was an injury, so I can't fault them. I mean, no KG is, that was bad.
Right.
But
what I mean by that is that they fall short due to injuries, kind of like what you've seen with Drew Holiday and Tatum with his hand a little bit. I didn't realize Larry Bird had a major hand injury from punching a guy in a bar in 1985. I just learned about this when I was watching this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
City. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
What'd you think of that documentary?
Barroom brawlers. You expect hockey players.
That documentary was incredible. One of the things I liked about it the most was that I like a lot of times with Celtics history when they talk about it, they only talk about like the very popular stories that were like, okay, they won it in 84, they lost it in 87. They'll talk about like the really high level good and the high level bad, but they won't talk to you about like Reggie Lewis or maybe the Antoine Walker years, or maybe they got every nook and cranny of that history in there. They even talked, I think, about Dominic Wilkins being on the Celtics, I think, for a moment there.
The tree.
Yeah.
Remember he bit him? He bit Parrish, didn't he? Is that the one? If I get that right, he bit him on the finger?
No, Danny Ainge. I was at that.
Oh, that was Danny Ainge. You're right. That was
right.
Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge bought Tree Rollins' finger, yeah.
Not that.
I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, it was a different guy. Two different guys. All right.
If you're Danny Ainge,
punched people and killed them, but Danny Ainge was he was kind of a weasel.
He was. I mean, that guy's got a lot of confidence to take on Tree Rollins that was about twice his size and maybe 3 times his weight.
Fight him in the scrum. He can't fight him. So
that's like Jerry Seasting fighting Ralph Sampson in the 86
He's
finals.
Yeah. He's a 3-point shooter. He's not getting in fights.
If we go back and watch some old footage of the old days in the 80s when you had like McHale and just trucking Rambus.
Yeah.
or Parrish just decking Bill Lambier.
Oh, my
Bill Lambier, that was classic. That was the best. That was so good. I love Parrish.
This would have been a crisis and a 2-game suspension and a massive fine nowadays, but
that wouldn't happen today.
Taking him down.
It was combat back then.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this question because I got on the screen. Rosemary says, Mike, I felt a bit lost when she mentioned Beatty. Is he being called now? I'm talking about Tom Beatty, and what's his role? I met Tom Beatty, and I mean, basically, I think most of us know his role just from reading. Do you guys want to comment on it? Do you want me to just expound on it? Do you know about it? I'm sure Mark knows about it.
Not that much. I don't know much about this.
Well, I mean, basically, his daughter got a phone call from Colin for a ride home that night.
Oh, that's that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then later on, Jen McCabe apparently allegedly threatened or said something to the daughter of Tom Beatty, and so there's been some back and forth between the crew. But I know that Tom Beatty definitely thinks something is up. You know what I mean? He's on Free Karen Reed. I met him at a Free Karen Reed standout. So yeah, I think I'd be interested to see what he has to say.
He's not gonna. This stuff's not coming in. And to be honest with you, at this point, I don't think Colin Albert's going to testify at this trial.
I know, right?
At this point, given the ruling, I don't know why he would. I mean, if I'm the defense, I don't even, you're not going to be allowed to talk about his knuckles and bang, bang and all that crap. What are you substantively calling him to do? You want to say he was in the house and who did you see? You could, but are you really going to do that? I doubt it.
Yeah, you really can't apply the context to it that you'd like when you have them on the stand. So it's not going to be like the last trial, for example, where they could really delve into it. But I mean, to that point, I think that what's good is I think that, just like last trial, they're getting something out of every Commonwealth witness every time they cross. They're getting something out of it, and it's significant enough to, again, which should be their closing argument, as we've talked about, reasonable doubt, and they're establishing that quite a bit. And it's just there's just been a lot of inconsistent testimony throughout this whole thing, and people don't seem very confident in what they're saying. Like when you look at Dr. Wolf during the voir dire the other day, I mean, did he kind of stammer and stutter? Well, everybody does, right? But at the same time, he seemed very he spoke with conviction. Like everything he said, he had a sharp answer for when he was answering these questions. When you see some of these other witnesses, they kind of bounce around, they kind of look around, they kind of get a little inconsistent. They're thinking a little bit. They feel a little pressured. They don't come back with like a convicted response. With conviction, I don't mean a legal conviction. I mean, like, you believe what you're saying. If you truly believe the Celtics are going to win the championship, you're going to say it with conviction, and I see a lot of these witnesses on the stand, this goes back to Nuttall as well. Just it's a lot of like, it's like they really don't have a lot of strong confidence in what they're saying. It's always kind of, it's a little wishy-washy. It's a little bit like that. It's kind of, you know, for an outside observer, what are you thinking?
I mean, Nuttall, they molded his testimony because it feels like he's made of clay, and they could just frame what they want. I mean, this was a guy at the first trial who was adamant about the puffy coat as much as he was about anything else. And that I hit him a couple of times, and all it took was a meeting or two with Brennan and Tully, and all of a sudden he says, my memory is better a year later. I now remember that it was 3 times. And yes, I know what I said about the puffy coat, but I know that's wrong. And I'm positive now it's 3. It has nothing to do with meeting with them. I mean, that's just mush brain. I mean, that he just got molded and went with, I think, that's just
script, and he got a script and he's stuck with it.
It was 2 times or 3 times. And, and that's what's so great about the second trial for the defense is they can sit back and kind of use it to their advantage to use testimony from last time around and kind of say, well, last year you said this. Now it's 3 times or 2 times. Why the change?
When you give an opening like he did with Nuttall and come out with him out of the gate with a witness who is so obviously weak and so obviously is going to be impeached about his prior testimony, which is just absurd on its face, at least as about the coat. And, he's not on video doing what he claimed he was doing when he, claimed he heard these things. If that's how you come out of the gate with a witness like that and you anchor the opening to him, that's not exactly starting in a position of strength. And, 2 weeks later, they don't feel like they've really moved the ball much forward from there.
Right.
This might be the only thing they have going for them right now. Susie from San Francisco says, Mark, do you think the videos are damaging to the defense?
Some of them are. Let's be honest about what we're watching. The last video today is not good and needs to be explained and put in context. If I understood the last video properly, it's a clip. I don't know the context of it, and I sure as hell don't trust them with everything else they've done to assume it is in the right context. But if we're going by the video itself, as I understand it, the last video has Karen saying, in essence, we were going there and I expected to find him where he was. That's not good. I don't think it's fatal, but that needs to be put in context or somehow dealt with. That's of all the videos that you've seen so far, I would suggest that that's the one that is the most bizarre, that doesn't really comport with a lot of the other evidence. But there is a video of Karen saying, I expected to find him there. I don't know the context of it, but the jury doesn't either, but you might want to give them the context of that.
Right.
I don't understand the videos. I've never understood the videos. I don't understand the comments outside the courthouse, even now, frankly. It's not my place to say or not say, but I just don't think it's wise. Those comments could end up being admissible too. Now I haven't seen anything that's been said that's bad, but I just feel like we're playing with fire here and there's no reason for it. It doesn't, that's the one thing that just does not make sense to me.
Sometimes it's better not to speak. Less is more. I'm going through some things right now too, like that I'm just not going to speak on right now.
No,
just just the way it is. You got to sometimes shut up.
She's on trial. The lawyers can't speak. There's a gag order, obviously, but there are, to the extent anybody's going to speak, there are some other people that I think would be much better candidates to be issuing any statements to the extent anybody is inclined. But I think at this point they're on trial. They keep it in the courtroom. I think they're winning. I think they're doing very well. The risk of any own goal or unforced error here doesn't make sense to me. Lawyers are in the business of, risk assessment and minimizing exposure to danger. And I think it's a no-brainer that one of the ways that you minimize the risk of any exposure to danger is to just lock down the out-of-court statements.
Sense. Mazza, you want to comment on any of the video stuff going on?
Yeah, I think it's a product of the prosecutor. He is very much a dot the I, cross the T prosecutor. He's a lot more thorough. I think when we looked at the voir dire, especially the way he approached Dr. Wolf, it tended to really rub a lot of us the wrong way. But at the same time, this is the product of the way he operates, which is very detailed. It's every penny, it's every nickel, it's every dime, it's every quarter, it's every dollar, it's every inch, it's every centimeter. He is. He's cleaning up the parking lot, and making sure every piece of, every piece of whatever is cleaned up and it's spick and span. He's going after every little facet and detail. That's the way he's been. And it looks outrageous, but I don't know why that's his method, but it seems to me like he's trying to go over to every detail he possibly can. Any fragment that he thinks could possibly frame Karen in the least bit of looking guilty, he's going to use. I think that's, I just, I know this might be an unpopular opinion. I just think he's a far better prosecutor than Adam Lally. I heard some people say they thought Lally was better, but I just think overall, taking context out of all this, free Karen Reed, anti, whatever you are, I just think he's a lot more thorough. He's a lot more, he's a lot more of, he's a lot more, I would say, threatening in the courtroom in terms, whether or not you think he's a great prosecutor or not. I think he's far more of a sufficient prosecutor than Lally was in terms of his ethic and the way he approaches taking anything the defense does or any interview Karen does and trying to turn that on them. So I'll let Mark jump in.
I was just going to say, there are people who think, I'm not a fan of Brennan for a lot of reasons, as you can
right.
He's fat. No way.
Let's call it the way it is. Are there seriously people who think that Lally is better at this than Brennan? I'm not talking more likable. I'm not talking about all that stuff, but I mean just on skill level and preparation. And again, it has nothing to do with liking them. But Lally is not as skilled as Brennan. This is one of those ones where you say, trust the lawyer. No. This is like night and day. This was an upgrade skill-wise for the prosecution. Now, there could be other ways it could hurt them. The jury may just detest him and loathe him and his mannerisms and the way he does things and a lot of other number of things about him, and it could blow up in their face. Now, they don't know about a lot of the other detestable things that he's done, but he's better at this than Lally. Sorry for those who don't.
Yeah, right.
Definitely. It's like traffic court to a murder case. It's like night and day.
Right.
Let me ask this question, because the videos, we've been talking about the videos. Karen Reed trial feed says, why can't the defense show the microdots audio of Jen McCabe clearly talking to Nicole before the police arrive?
Well, I mean, whether it can be that particular video or not may have foundational issues just in terms of authenticating and that sort of thing. But if you can get past that, I mean, I do recall hearing a video where it appears that she's calling Nicole in the car and whispers something about they're here or whatever it was. I don't remember off the top of my head. If there was a way to make that admissible, I would absolutely play it for a couple of reasons. Number one, why is she whispering? What are you hiding? I mean, and she was calling Nicole when she's saying there was no need to call Nicole. And then, she says, if the records say that I was a call, that's fine, but I don't remember it. So whatever, it means nothing, never mind the man behind the curtain kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would try to play it if they could. I would try to emphasize that she's trying to conceal what she's doing. And it does beg the question, why is she calling Nicole then? Why did she call at 5:07, but why make no efforts to do these other things? Why did they tell Karen to drive from Meadows to Jen McCabe's house? I mean, why did, if time was of the essence, at least in Karen's mind, none of them knew what had happened, presumably at that time, but why not say, I'll just meet you at Fairview or whatever?
Right.
Is this all part of the delay and keeping them informed? I don't know. But if there's a way to play it, yeah, I would absolutely play it. And by the way, if somebody just commented, and I think they're right, like I think she said we're here, or words to that effect. Yep. Nicole Albert would have no context to know what that means unless that 38-second call an hour earlier was talking about we're coming here. And if they're talking about that at 5:07, and then she's whispering at 6:07, now it's starting to sound more of the same, like those text messages among the families, where it's just bizarre behavior that doesn't sound like people who don't know anything. It sounds like people who do know something, which of course is going to tilt the needle away from Karen, because why should they know something?
Mike, your audio sounded a little bit off there.
I was just wondering if you have any follow-up on that.
Yeah, I wish a lot of the microdots videos would be admissible. I know sometimes they in the last trial they had clips of it or even just images of that, but a lot of those microdot videos, especially with the audio cleanup that he does, is absolutely incredible. But it would be nice. It would be nice if they were able to show that, just to present that before the court, that something more was going on behind the scenes and that there was definitely a level of suspicious activity. Nonetheless, I do think that beyond that, the defense is making more than a sufficient argument to create reasonable doubt in this case, once again, just like they had with the trial the first time around.
Let's read this one. Why do you think the feds dumped more info to the defense? How did they have access to the latest that Jen lied to them and called those 5 people?
Well, I'm not sure why we're assuming the feds dumped more. I mean, obviously, there are things that were used at this trial that came from the feds that were not used the first time. But also remember, I mean, take Kerry Roberts. She wasn't even cross-examined at the first trial. So the materials that were cited about her, nothing was used. As far as the interview report or whatever was used with Jennifer McCabe, I don't think there's been any statement one way or the other about whether it's something that they've had the whole time or was new. I wouldn't assume it's new.
It's funny. I didn't mean to click on that one. It turned out it was a super chat question. They stuck one through. They're all in the same folder. It's funny. The ones I star that aren't. Again, I just want to repeat this. We're not taking questions, super chat questions. If you got a question, just post it in the regular chat. We read the super chats at the end of the show tonight. We've had a lot of super chats. This is a question that came up. Dr. Welkers keeps coming up tonight. People are wondering about Victoria George. They didn't see her. What do you think? Is she not there? She's probably not needed in court, I'm guessing. I don't know. What do you think? They're noticing that's Victoria George. And here's the comment actually a little different because people have been asking about it, but they said, do you want to speculate with me about Victoria George doing the closing argument? She's not going to do the closing argument, right?
Let's start with the first one and then go back.
Yeah.
To the part. Yeah, she's not doing the closing argument. So let's just put that aside. As far as, first, it's a closet courtroom. They don't have enough space in there. And, you have to, be fair to the analysis here. She's not a criminal lawyer, probably doesn't have any trial experience. It was a juror, a non-deliberating juror, and that's fascinating and interesting. But, let's be honest. This is a murder case where a woman is fighting for her life, and she has 4 very experienced criminal attorneys. Okay. I don't know why they have 5 total in like what happened right before the trial, or what role it is that she's playing. And I'm sure she's playing some role. But I would be stunned beyond belief if that role included actual litigation in a murder case, given all of these variables. That would be shocking to me.
I've heard things that she's working with some of the interns. That would make sense to me, because they have a bunch of interns, probably organizing them. That would make sense.
I don't know, but I mean, I mean, trying the case it's not the kind of thing that you just show up and do it without experience. That's
It's
just
a
not.
skill. It's a skill
Yeah.
that takes experience. I mean, yeah. I mean, you got Alan Jackson. If he's not closing, it's Yannetti or Alessi. I mean, I got to think it's Jackson. What do you? Let's do a poll right now. Who's closing? Who do you think? We'll go with Bederow first. I know what he's going to say.
110% Allen is closing. I wouldn't even do the poll.
Right.
Yeah,
What do you think, Baza? Yeah, Jackson.
Alan Jackson through and through, of course.
And me too. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Jackson. And
Right.
number 2 would be, probably Alessi or Yannetti. I mean,
David,
yeah, but I think Jackson's got to be the guy.
This is a non-starter. Allen's going to close.
Yeah, there's not even a second place. I mean, the fight would be over second place.
Second place is no place. Quote John Kreese.
We keep having these. We've asked this question tonight, but it keeps coming up. So I figure we might want to drill down a little more. Maybe Mazza wants to take a whack at it too. But Bederow's obviously the expert on this. They keep wanting to know: can the defense recall Jen McCabe once more with evidence and police reports or other information is entered? They're also asking about the FBI stuff. We've talked about that tonight too. They want to know: has she opened the door? How much is going to come in on the FBI, considering that Jen McCabe brought it up tonight? Let's go with Bederow first.
I mean, they could recall her if they had other things, but then you're directing her. Now, look how almost impossible it is to cross-examine her with her shtick and attitude and demeanor. Probably at some point, she would be declared hostile in light of the other things that have happened. But what at this point are you doing? Why go back to that? I mean, you have discredited her substantially. You've established whatever points you need. I can't fathom the idea unless they feel like, oh crap, we missed something so much that is catastrophic to our case. We have to do it. Short of that, I don't think, I mean, the damage is done with her. So why even give her the opportunity to try to clean some of it up? And look at her. She'll say anything, right? She just on her own starts spouting off about closed investigations due to my evidence that I provided, that kind of thing. No, I'm not recalling her.
Not recalling her.
No. Or I should say recalling her. I'm not calling her as a defense witness.
Right.
And what about this part here, too, that a lot of people are questioning whether the FBI can cut two ways? Like, could this actually harm Karen if it's not addressed? Maybe the jurors might think that they were investigating Karen.
Well, there was no objection, so it's out there. What McCabe said. There's always risk that you don't know how the jury is going to interpret it, and there's also risk if you say, okay, let's get the judge to allow the FBI and U.S. attorney and all that. Let's just stop with the nonsense about hiding the other agency. But, in Brennan world, I'm not sure he's opposed to that either, because he seems to be of the belief, however delusional I think it is, and perhaps others do, that he's going to go to the mattresses with the ARCA people and accuse them of being corrupt dirtbags in the pocket of the defense, which I think is just crazy in light of the timeline of their opinion and engagement. But if he can scream and yell and mention the FBI and mention the U.S. attorney, his argument will make more sense. I'm not saying it's going to be any stronger. I still think it's delusional, but at least people are like, oh, that's what he's talking about.
Right.
But the real
having to say cryptically.
What the real problem with what Jennifer McCabe did today is this. She didn't just mention a federal investigation. She made a conclusory statement that they investigated and they're doing nothing. And the way she said it would imply that in her favor. And there has been some discussion publicly that the investigation is over, but no one has ever said that from the federal government, and they never do generally. Okay. So what if that's not the case? What if not only did she open a door, but what if she misled the jury with a factually inaccurate statement? That's very prejudicial to the defense. So they need to do something. They need to address this I mean, I'm a little surprised they didn't object right there and go to the bench and say, what the hell is this? And then perhaps argue the door's open. But if you let it sit the way it is now, you run the risk of the jury concluding what she said is true. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that would not sit well with me.
Meza?
Well, I think overall, looking at all this, getting back to just a few conversational threads we've had here, I just think again that they got everything they needed out of Jennifer McCabe during cross-examination. I think that they got more than enough reasonable doubt. I think they created enough suspicion. Getting back to the authorities, the law enforcement, couldn't say FBI going to her house a couple of years ago. I think it was 2023, if I'm not mistaken. That big tell right there was the fact that, she asked for 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, Alan Jackson was able to cite that numerous phone calls were made in that time. And then when the authorities asked her, did you talk to anybody? Did you make any phone calls while during that 10 minutes? And they got that actually on the record before that jury. That's damning stuff in terms of trying to prove Karen Reed's innocence here and also trying to discredit any testimony that comes out of Jen's mouth on that stand. So I think that, like I said, God willing, and hopefully this jury is picking up on all this stuff the way we are. As much as we'd like to actually hear Alan Jackson actually say feds or FBI, because those words really stand out. I think sometimes, there was a concern with ARCA in the first trial where people didn't really understand who ARCA was. They didn't understand their significance. So those are sometimes the things I worry about when the defense can't fully say these things. Nonetheless, I think that a big enough point was made by Alan Jackson with enough exclamation points to drive it home that Jen was inconsistent. And then they have records to prove that there were phone calls that were made. And he went as far as even mentioning the DA, even the homeowner, in that particular statement that he made when he was crossing her. So it was very well done. And I'll kick it back to you, Mike.
A couple more questions. Almost done for the night. We've been over 2 hours now. Jules has this question. Do you think the defense will put the video clips into full context when it's their turn?
I mean, most of the videos I've seen are, for me, I kind of roll my eyes and say, really? The one at the end today, that needs to be addressed. That, I expected to see him there. That may not be as bad as it sounds in context, but the way it's been portrayed now, I'm not letting that sit there. There's got to be some way to do that, or whatever the context is. I think there's one other video. I can't even remember it. That's how compelling it must have been, that I thought was at least not great. The one video with Mrs. O'Keefe, that should never have been admitted into evidence. That was a complete joke to allow that to come in. It was irrelevant. To the extent it was relevant, any relevance was substantially outweighed by its prejudice, which is a rule of evidence to kick evidence out. But, you have to deal with the videos in some way. And the crazy part to me is, at least at this point, I mean, it's early for them. Other than, I guess, some of the opinions that they're going to pounce on from Ian Whiffen, although I think they're vulnerable, it's probably their strongest evidence, which is not saying a hell of a lot. But you just sit there and say, how is this even an issue? Like, how are these videos even in existence to allow them to do this to the point where we're talking about, you got to explain that video? I mean, that's regrettable. I mean, there's no other way to do that. So yes, they need to deal with some of these for sure.
What's interesting is we heard from Thomas Fleming today, who's Kevin Yellow Cottage moderator, his YouTube chat there. They never have any criticism for the prosecution. Like you just gave the defense. I mean, there are clear points where we actually do have issues with the defense. I mean, that doesn't exist on the other side. I mean, that is the difference. They say that we're the mindless mob, but you don't hear that on Kevin's shows and the other shows. You just don't.
Right. You have to be analytical.
I don't think these videos are going to carry the day. I mean, they're issues. I mean, you're trying to win. You should deal with whatever you have to deal with to push the needle in your direction. But, they're just the kind of thing that you're going to have to deal with. But I mean, I would not panic about them. If that's their best evidence, then they're screwed. Put it that way.
That just shows how weak the case really is. That's the best that they have.
The case is going to be determined on science ultimately. And Karen talking in a soundbite to somebody about what I might have seen or thought or what I did see is never going to trump science. I mean, and that's the job of the defense in summation, to make sure to make that clear that, it's what I call the Jesse Pinkman defense, science, bitches, right? Start.
I mean, logic over what somebody said. I mean, that's it. I mean, those ARCA guys, that's more convincing than trying to determine what Karen meant when she said this or that. It's just a joke. I guess this is probably the last one tonight. This is a big one that keeps coming up. 1 hour closing arguments. What is the defense? I mean, I'm guessing they asked before. What can they do to make sure they get more than an hour for a closing argument?
Argue, complain, and say this is a 2-month trial with a lot of moving parts, a lot of expert testimony, a lot of, convoluted things, memories fade. And at the end of the day, you would say to the judge, this is a murder case. Okay. Client's life is at stake here. It's the most serious charge in the penal law. So what is the need to put a stopwatch on and interrupt and say 2 minutes, 1 minute, sit down? I mean, I don't think it's unconstitutional. That's not the issue. The real issue is to appeal to the judge. Just for the love of God, would you be reasonable?
Sure.
It's really not a big deal if they need an hour and a half or even 2 hours. Now, by the way, there comes a point where it may be too long and you're doing harm to yourself, if you get up there and go on for 4 hours or whatever. But why, in a case like this, there has to be a rule? There's always a rule about everything in this whole, everything's by motion. Everything is just
regimented.
I hate court culture there is awful, but a case like this should not have an hour limit. It is no reason for it. They ought to be able to do a summation as they see fit within reason. And if somebody went 75 minutes and somebody went 55 minutes, who cares?
Should be about the argument, not the length of time.
Right.
I said last question, but I got a couple more. Because this one's a good one. How can Bev allow, because this is what I keep thinking about all the time. How can Bev allow this to continue when she's heard Jen testify one way in the last trial and change or not remember this time, along with the Commonwealth's theory changing because of it?
I mean, she's presiding over, a new trial. And I mean, it's not her job to be fact finder and stop the trial and say, I think this is stupid. I don't think you have a case. So let's all go home. The time for her to dismiss the case was when there was a motion to dismiss for a number of alleged serious Brady and discovery violations, which the prosecution basically conceded, but which the defense had a right to air out to determine whether it was intentional, call witnesses, build a factual record, and make argument. Now, this judge said, I don't even need a hearing, even though there are unresolved questions of fact, but was happy to give a hearing on the ARCA nonsense. So, I mean, what do you even say at this point about any of this other than that was the time she should have acted or at least heard a hearing? She's not going to just dismiss the case because she thinks this is, I think this case is stupid. I mean, that's not a judge's role.
Do you have any comment on that?
This judge, you can never know what she's going to do or not do, but a lot of times it's not in favor of the defense. That much is sure. And like everyone said, there has been significant inconsistencies, but I don't think, like I said, anything's going to be done by her about that. I have nothing more really to add beyond what Mark said. But like I said, in terms of any kind of level of favoritism towards the defense, I wouldn't bank on that from this judge at all. It's occasionally she might, make a ruling or overrule or sustain something that's in favor of the defense. But other than that, no, I got nothing more to add.
Excellent. Any final thoughts tonight? We'll go to Mazda first. Anything you want to bring up that we didn't discuss tonight? Or anything in general?
I'm very thankful for the defense right now and their efforts. I think they're doing a very good job. I think one of the biggest things we've seen out of them is that they have refined a lot of their questions. I thought the cross-examination of Jen McCabe was a little bit more different, obviously significantly different in a lot of ways this particular time around. And I thought the way they kind of approached it was very well done. And I think that Alan Jackson asked the right questions. I think he kind of got a little bit more, he got his hands in the dirt a little bit more at the times where it really mattered. Kind of question her a little bit about, saying, I'm sorry a lot. That was something that really stood out to me when I watched it this evening, where she kept saying, I'm sorry. You said I'm sorry a lot. What's up with that? And she didn't really say it much. That was good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was a big moment for him. I thought Alan Jackson was doing a fantastic job, obviously, but I thought that where it matters most, he got what he needed to get before that jury. And like I said, I can't emphasize enough how establishing the connections between all the key players was done at the very beginning of his cross-examination. I thought that was an extremely important job that you need to do. You remember Brandy Churchwell's big sheet she made with all the connections. There's a lot of people here with a lot of connections, and it's important for that jury to understand who these people are. This is just not first name and last name person on the stand. Who are they married to? Who is that person connected to? Who is the person on the stand connected to? What's their police affiliations? All that stuff, extremely important, especially when you're trying to establish reasonable doubt, and especially when you're trying to acquit Karen Read of charges that are absolutely absurd and are ultimately overcharges as well. And that's all I got to say about that, Mike.
Excellent. I have another question for Attorney Bederow before we go to the final summation. Turtle Boy had his hearing 2 days ago, and it seemed like the judge was ruling in your favor for this motion to compel discovery. Am I right on that?
Well, I mean, a motion to compel discovery they're obligated to give us discoverable evidence.
Hearing?
Well, whether it's a hearing or not, I don't know that there needs to be one. They're obligated to disclose evidence that they're obligated to disclose. We have demanded that they disclose it. They have to do it. So if they don't do it, then you have an issue. But it's decided in the sense a motion to compel just is formal notice, do it, and notifying the court that there ought to be sanctions if they don't. So let's see if they do it.
So this judge is, how long do you think we'll find how long do you think it will take before this judge lets us know what's going on with that?
Don't know. Don't know.
I mean, that to me, that felt like the best news of that hearing, beyond all the other BS that was going on with Cosgrove and just trying to lock him up again. It seemed like that was the good news of the hearing, that the judge seemed to take that seriously.
I mean, the hearing was public. People saw it. I'm not going to.
God reels.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
It's
fair enough. All right. Well, your final thoughts tonight. Anything you want to bring up that we didn't discuss tonight, or just remind people of? What are your final thoughts tonight?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to a bunch of special people who I understand are having a watch party. I think in 2 countries, here and in Ireland. They know who they are. So thank you for watching, and little teasing I see at the same time on text messaging, but thank you for watching. As far as this trial, it's way too early to determine what's going to happen. I mean, I think I have an idea just based on what I know, what I've seen already in the past, but 2 weeks through this, some of their big witnesses have already testified, and I don't think it went so good for the prosecution. And I think the real underrated one here is Whiffen. I mean, McCabe obviously is McCabe, but if you're going on a reasonable doubt standard here, Ian Whiffen conceded the phone could have gone in the house, which can't be anything any of these witnesses or the prosecution can have. That just can't be. He established that the phone was being used at a time that probably came after the accident. And when you combine that with, Jennifer McCabe's new timeline that she remembers, it appears they've set up a situation where she would have almost had to have seen the accident when she's out there texting parked behind. And if it wasn't before or during, it would have been a matter of seconds after. And the idea that she would not hear, see anything, especially when she sent all these apparent nervous calls and texts that she no longer seems to remember. That's interesting to me. Through those witnesses, where do they go from here other than their accident reconstruction person? I mean, the other witnesses that they may call, they can't really do them any good. They just have to keep them in the status quo. I mean, if they call Higgins, he can't establish any help to their case. He from the prosecution standpoint, they just hope he doesn't make it worse because they don't know anything. Same with Brian Albert, same with Nicole Albert. So they have to get through all these people and hope that they can even hold the line from that already. There's a crack in the line, right? I mean, it's been broken. And if they can't somehow I guess there are other forensic expert that they're going to call and their accident reconstruction people calling. I'm getting hazing text messages about that, what I just said, by the way.
Giving you hard times. That flip ahead?
Joe flip ahead.
He's on me. No, yeah, I think he's moved on from beds to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
He's making fun of my dancing last night.
Yeah.
Who knew? By the way, you don't strike me as that guy.
He can make fun of my dancing.
That was surprisingly rhythmic in some ways. So, congratulations.
It was risky. Especially when go ahead. Sorry.
You broke the internet last night, Mike. Great job. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a raining men. I don't know about that, but
it's raining men. That's what did it to me. That drew me out. When they played that song, I was like, I gotta hit the floor.
Focus. All right. To me, it's all going to be their accident reconstruction people and their other cell phone person. And if they can't overwhelmingly wipe out these problems that the defense has already put in play with, Whiffen and McCabe, then I don't really know where they go. And it was actually a few days ago, I even said, I don't even know if they're going to call Green at this point. And then, I thought more about it. And then, of course, saw Jen McCabe today. And clearly, I think they're going to, because they set her up so perfectly to use Green, because they didn't go hard at her over the deletions. I mean, they hit her every which way till next Tuesday, okay? But they didn't really go after her too much on deletions. And they finished up with the 227 search, and she's all defiant about all of it. And you can argue over what time it was made. And then here comes Green, who's going to say, I did an analysis of her phone and all the Celebrite stuff. And, imagine how this is going to play out, okay? Could you determine how many Google searches on the life of this device were made? And he says, 4,500, whatever the hell the number is, right? And, do you know how many of those were deleted? Now, I think Whiffen said maybe 3 or 4. So he did a little different, but not much better. And Green is going to say, yeah, as far as I could tell, 1 deleted. And can't you just picture at that point, I guess if it's Green, probably going to be Bob, right? I don't know if this is his style. I mean, I kind of more to like the Allen style. Bob is like the silent assassin who just he's just methodical and brutal and wipes them out. But you kind of look at the jury and kind of stare at them when you're asking the question as if it's like Karnak. You're not even looking. Do you know what search that was? The title of the search that just happened to be deleted, the one out of whatever. And then you picture this guy, he puts on his reading glasses and he's like, Haas long to die in the cold. And that's like my final question for that guy, right? I mean, that would be, so they've got her set up nicely. So I just think they're really doing a really good job, all of them. They've got a good rhythm going. They've all been involved. They've all made really good points. And, you know, they've already gotten through a couple of these witnesses. And the difference, I think, this time is that they have their own case. And I don't think they're going to do what they did last time, which is just kind of streamline it and be done. You know, you heard that they're going to call the medical examiner who testified for the prosecution and did the autopsy is now a defense witness. That ain't good for the prosecution. That looks terrible. And, you know, she's going to support their ability to say it could be this, it could be that. And, oh, by the way, he would have been incapacitated, right? Which is kind of going to foul up their timeline about, you know, the phone being used after the so-called triggering event that caused the accident. So I think Karen's in very good shape. But, you know, we'll see.
We shall see. Monday we'll be back. It's a full week next week from what I hear.
Do we know who the witnesses are, or they haven't? I
haven't heard. Have you seen any witness list, Maz? I've seen nothing actually.
Nothing. I haven't heard anything.
Seems like it's been much more protected than last time. It came like we knew before what was coming up.
Well, I heard rumor mills a couple of days in advance of Jen. That was kind of
that was it.
Bleed, but you know, that was about it. We'll see.
Okay.
We shall see. It's going to be this trial just continues to just make, I mean, it just shocks us.
Yeah.
Every time there's a new day, a new revelation, it just never ends. How much more can we take? I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Yeah. I mean, how much more can you take? I guess I got one more question for you, like a poll question. Have you, or do you even know how? I've thought about this. Have you ever deleted a Google search on your phone? I don't even know how you do it. How do you? I know how to delete text. I know how to, but have you guys done that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
think maybe clear your internet history. I mean, that's basically the only way I could fathom possibly that could possibly be done. Unless, of course, maybe you go into history and maybe you know how you delete text messages where you just move it and hit delete. Maybe there's something like that where you can go in your internet history on your phone, just move it to the right and delete. I don't know, but that's interesting stuff.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever done it, Mazza?
Deleted text or deleted Google searches?
It's Google searches.
I don't know if I've ever done that. I don't know.
Yeah. Especially on the phone. I mean, I could see maybe on the computer saving space. People do that a lot more. I think
yes.
But on the phone, I don't know. The only thing I ever delete, like you said, text messages and photos and videos, just because I'm trying to save space.
Yeah.
But searches, I don't know. It just seems really weird.
Yeah. Remember, Monday's a Celtics game, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Monday night. Well, it's time to be announced, so we'll see. That's what I was checking. I was like, TBA, right?
That's for sure.
Well,
it's probably going to be, what, a 7 o'clock game, you guess? 7 or 8?
7:30, 8:30, somewhere like that.
This whole series, just to be clear, because it's like the Celtics and Knicks is for the NBA.
Premier. Marquee.
The ratings are going to be, so they're going to have the feature time for East Coast, which of course is the real time every night. So they're going to be 7:30. And if they play weekend games, they're probably going to be like Saturday night, or I don't even know the full schedule, but no, they're going to be prime time every
ABC on a Sunday or something like that. Yeah, for sure. Saturday for sure.
Maybe we get one in at 5 o'clock. We'll do a 5 o'clock show.
Right.
Quick show. We'll see what happens on Monday too.
Another Celtics playoff run, back-to-back years.
That's right.
It's amazing how that works. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have to have a third Karen Reed trial for the Celtics to be in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
It'd be nice just to have the Celtics in the playoffs and Karen Reed not on trial.
Only Karen can move on with their life and be done with at least the trial portion of it. And before she goes, hopefully sues everybody that's ever done anything wrong to her in her life. That's for sure.
Karma's going to come back and good for her, I think, in the other
Right.
direction. I want to thank you guys so much. Mazza Media, make sure you follow them on YouTube, Twitter, X. Thank you so much. It's good to have you back. This is great to have a
Thank you.
3Ms reunion. People enjoyed it. They were looking for it. Last night, guys, when I was out, I swear to God, over and over, where's Mark? Where's Mazza? How's Mazza doing? Why isn't Bederow here? I'm like, Bederow's in New York, and Mazza, he's got a life. Let him be. So,
Right. Yeah.
How far from Kowloon were you?
yeah.
Where were you guys last night? What town?
Peabody, Mass. Peabody, Mass.
That's not that far, but okay, up there, up that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was perfect for me. I loved it. It was awesome.
You lit
And
it
I get
up
to
on the
meet a
dance-
lot of locals. That's what I loved. I like a lot of them, my neighbors, you know, so it was
That's
great.
funny.
Okay.
Like you said, Mark, you mentioned UK, I think Scotland. I don't even know what you mentioned. Some other countries tonight. I met people from the UK last night who were here.
Wow.
That was wild. They were like, I watch you every night. So funny. Nurse Kim was freaking out. She couldn't
That's
handle
awesome.
it. She was like, I love Nurse Kim. She gets all flustered because it happens to her especially. Like, people love her. If you're a Nurse Kim fan, you are into Nurse Kim. And so I got to see some of that last night. It was fun. We did miss you. Thank you for being here tonight. You gave us our fix, so I gave everyone what they wanted. They kept asking me, when are you going to have Bederow and Mazza back on? One night later, here we are, and thank
There
you
we
guys
go.
for making it happen.
All right. Free Karen Reed.
Have a good one.
Free Karen Reed. We'll see what happens Monday. Thank you, Mark. Thank you,
care.
Mazza Media.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to read all the super chats. There's so many super chats coming through. I want to thank everyone for contributing tonight. Sent 499. She says, can we talk about how fire Allen's last 10 minutes of cross was? It definitely was. He did. I thought he built up to the end. Analytical Blondie AB says, thanks for all you're doing for Karen and Turtle Boy alike. Thank you for what you're doing, for watching and sending the super chat. CT Bev, I don't like to say that word, says, Mark, do you think the feds dumped more info to the fence? How do they have access to the latest that Jen lied to them and called those 5 people? We kind of did answer that. We don't know. We don't think so. We don't even know. But again, questions when Mark's on, definitely just post them in the chat. I know a lot of the questions I didn't get to read tonight. I starred so many of them. It was amazing how many questions you folks had tonight. A lot of good questions. I really appreciate it. We try to read as many as we can. Bex says, thanks for the breakdown, Mr. B and Mike, Free Karen Reed. Thank you so much, Bex. I want to thank Mevi, how the jury reacting to Jen McCabe. I don't know. None of us know because none of us have been in the court to see it. Someone suggested that we get Nick Rocco on here. There's also Jessica Machado, maybe Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy. We definitely need to get someone on the show soon that's been watching the jury so we can kind of answer those questions. No doubt about it. Thank you, Mevi. Good question. We don't know. That's the big question, right? How is the jury acting? Fire on Acid says, Auntie Lydia Bev is too comfortable. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carl. Oh, Carrie. Is that Carrie? Yes, it is. Carrie Johnson. Thank you, Carrie Johnson, for becoming a new member tonight. Thank you, Susan. Susan says, Jay McCabe has a very selective memory, right? Yeah, I mean, she remembers what she wants. She always remembers when it's bad for Karen. When it's good for Karen, oh, I don't remember. I don't recall. I don't know. Yeah, good comment, Dusty. Maybe we will have Nick on soon, or somebody who's been watching the jury like Nick. I want to thank Analytical Blarney again. She said, Jen McCabe, I can't remember the actual truth from all the lies I told, so I'm actually being honest when I say I don't remember because of the hogwash. I know, right? It's hard to remember. It's hard to keep track when it's all made up. Charles Argo says, who created that family group and when? Good question. I bet it was Jen O'Brien. I don't know. Bederow for Pope says, millions have seen Paul. Eyes on Karen. Why move him now? Well, that's a good question. He was moved this week, and Not really sure. There's a lot of rumors about that. Not really sure the specifics, but he was moved to the back. Chris 10 became a new YouTube member. Thank you so much, Chris 10. Siobhan Man says that 5.07 blew my mind. It was for 38 seconds, so she definitely talked to her. Thank you, Siobhan. And Juror 56 says, can the defense look at how many butt dials Nicole, Brian, and Jen had in the days, weeks, months prior to January 29th? That would be a good thing to do. Just like what Mark was saying tonight about the Google searches. You know, how many Google searches in the past has Jen McCabe erased? That's a good point, Juror 56. Totally. They need to compare past behavior with current behavior. Analytical Blarney AB says hashtag Commonwealth Jen McCabe hogwash. Joanna Goddess says, is Judge Bev allowed to say no to be heard at sidebar? She denied a defense to be heard. That's huge. I know, right? Is she, I don't know. I don't know that answer. That's a good question. Charles Argo says the FBI asked Jen if they could close the case. Yeah, she thinks she's in charge of everything, right? She really does think she's in charge of everything. Thank you, Charles Argo. I want to know where you are. ZAR is the currency. I don't even know what that is. Where are you at? Megan says hashtag FKR ring from Oklahoma City. Thank both of you gentlemen. Thank you so much, Megan. Watching in Oklahoma City. They got some good wrestling over there. The Oklahoma Sooners. John Smith, you remember him? JASRN. She says 507. I think she talked to Brian. I know, right? Para Law Queen 13 says, what happens if prosecution does not call Proctor? The defense will. I mean, that, and if the defense doesn't call Proctor, they're just going to use it. They're going to say, look, they wouldn't even bring out their lead detective. So the prosecution is damned on Proctor, no matter what they do. If they bring him up on the stand or not bring him up on the stand, Proctor is going to be made a big deal of. So either way, it's going to be an issue. And I think the defense would call him. But if they didn't, they would make a big deal about it. Siobhan, you like my moves last night? She says, Mike, cool moves last night. You liked it? It's Raining Men got me up. That was, I don't know. I don't know if I like looking at myself this morning, honestly. Watching yourself dance, thought, not recommended. Amy from the 406 says, Amy from the 406 became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Amy from the 406. But Tina, timestamp. She said, yes, Bederow, preach. Thank you. But Tina. Rafi Crispin said, what if Lex's incident report is not 1231? Bosniak says a sci-fi movie creator wouldn't make a movie based on Jen's testimony because it's sci-fi. It's too sci-fi to believe. Right? It wouldn't, yeah, you're right. No one would believe this. Can the D mentioned that Brian Higgins and Brian A are MIA. I'm not sure what you mean by MIA on that. Mimi Love Good Law sent 20. Thank you so much. She said, I would have liked to have heard AJ say, isn't the reason you didn't run into the house to check on Nicole and Brian because you already knew she was fine after the 38-second phone call at 05:07 after Reed called you? That would have been a good question. You're right. I would have liked to hear that. That would have been a good one. It does seem like they talked. I'm not buying that they didn't talk. She says that butt dial or whatever, inadvertent call, went to voicemail. I'm not sure if I'm buying that. You know? Terry Martin says the daughter took the dog out of there to clean John's blood from her at her house. I believe that. Go back, you will see. I mean, that is a theory that people have. I don't think it can be proven. I mean, it would explain why Jen didn't hear the dog barking in the morning. I would not doubt if that dog was removed that night. It does make sense, Terry. But I don't think it's been proven. Casey Duncan says, Mark going to trial soon. Would love to watch him. I know, right? If Mark has a trial that's televised, I'll broadcast it. Trust me on that one. The problem is most trials are not broadcast. I mean, we're lucky that we get the Karen Reed trial because it's so popular they broadcast it. But most, average everyday trial, we never get to see any video from it. But if there's anything that's broadcast, definitely we'll air it. I had a question about phone calls. Do I take phone calls on your show? I used to take a lot of calls on the show, but I've had a lot of issues with the board that we use. Number one, the phone calls weren't coming in good anymore. And since I upgraded the new computer, and then the board has issues connecting to the computer all the time. So I stopped using the board. Sometimes we do the StreamYard calls where we take direct video calls. We should have done that tonight, but there was so many comments and questions coming in. I want to try to answer them. And I think that was the best way, just the way that we did it tonight. But maybe in the future, we will take some calls with Mark, definitely. And I probably, maybe this weekend, I'm probably going to do a couple more shows. And maybe we'll take some calls, StreamYard calls. And if I get a new phone eventually, I'll upgrade and I'll be able to maybe wire it into the system again, and we'll do the regular phone calls again. Thank you for the question, Mark. Just make sure we get through all these. We've got some more super chats. This is a good question that I wanted to ask earlier. I ran out of time. Southern Mom. She was, who in their right mind would storm into a cop's house in the morning? That's a good question. Yeah, I'd be worried about that. Even a cop that you're related to or no. Carrie A. First May says, please read my urgent email from Corey A. May, Mr. Bederow. Did you send him an email? Okay. You should, if you want to reach Mark, the best way is to send him an email. So his email, I believe, is on his website, Bederow Law. The Beagle guy, like the boss in the attic. That was a classic line tonight to Thomas Fleming. Talk to your boss in the attic. That was funny. The Beagle guy, I like that one. Beagle guy, you posted that twice. I appreciate it. He thought it was so funny. He posted it twice. Carla FKR became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Carla FKR. And Amber also became a Amber S. Thank you so much for the donation tonight. And I met this person last night. Meatball Morrissey Sketty stayed. I met her last night. Oh, there it is. She said it. She's so nice to meet you last night, Young Jelly. Yes, it was. We had fun. I'll never forget that name. You're like, I am the Sketty Stain. I was like, oh, I know exactly who you are. This is hilarious. I love it. I met some good people last night. There was also a woman from Texas I met named Lindsay Gold. She gave me some really nice Colorado cannabis, and she's like, this is something for you to remember me by. I did. I was remembering her last night as I consumed that. It was very nice. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for that. I also met a bunch of people I kind of know their families from growing up. A guy who used to be my assistant coach and now the head coach of the team, the wrestling team. One of his family members was there last night. Another group of people I grew up with and worked with in the past. They were there. It was awesome to see all the North Shore people, and even some of them recognizing that they knew me or that they knew people I was friends with. And it's very, very cool to see some of your neighbors last night. I really enjoyed that. Strong Leg 1971 says the group chat about plea deal and episode happening before Karen Reed is even arrested shows third party culprit and consciousness of guilt on the part of the group chat. Yeah, definitely. I would say so. It's obvious. Thank you so much, Cosmo Nurse, because a prosecutor is supposed to look for the truth, not get the conviction. If you have ethics, right, Cosmo? We talked about ethics tonight. I mean, I got to say, ethics, it means a lot to me. I basically left that financial career. Not completely. I still try to go self-employed, but I lost everything basically. I was in the ideal position in like 2007, 2008 in terms of my career, being 10 years in, managing a lot of money, working for one of the biggest financial companies in the world called AIG. And they started doing stuff that I just could not sleep at night. And the ethics came into big play. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not screwing people's life savings. It's one thing if you're a salesperson and you sell someone an expensive watch they can't afford. It's another thing when you mess with their life savings. And the company I was working for was lying to everybody. The shareholders, they were lying to everyone. They needed the biggest bailout in the history of the world, basically. And so I left that company, and it did harm me financially, but it was the best thing I ever did. You know, when you stand on your principles, you'll never feel bad, even if you lose a lot of money over it. I slept very good after that. And I found, like I said, I'm very happy where I am. I may make less money walking dogs than when I was a big financial advisor and managing all these group plans and moving up in the world, but I sleep much better. Ethics will always keep you doing the right thing. Amber S says, Mark, do you think AJ should have addressed JM's he got out of the car comment on her 911 call in the audio of her calling her sister after 911? Good question. Jean Marie RN became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much. Izzy Franco sent $9.99. She said, please comment about AJ bringing up how Jen's sister was in courtroom. I know that was strange, right? I just want to let people know, too. I know a lot of people don't watch every show, but we have kind of changed how we're doing Super Chats, especially when Mark's on the show, because we get so many of them. And I know that he wasn't comfortable with the way it was working out on some of these shows. So what we do is we don't take any Super Chats for Mark with questions. And we just wait at the end to read the Super Chat. So if you have any questions in the future when he's on, just post it in the chat. You don't have to pay to ask him a question. Unfortunately, there's so many, I can't guarantee it gets answered, but at least people aren't getting, a lot of times people are paying for questions and then they don't get answered. That's what bothers me. I'm seeing some of that tonight too. And the only other thing we could do is turn off the Super Chats. We have done that for a few shows to kind of make a point. I don't know. Maybe we have to go back to that, but I'd rather not. I'd rather see people just make a donation if you want to, not for a question. The petty paralegal says, will Crasherty be called before her June retirement date? It doesn't even matter. If she retires, she can still be called. KDS says the only honest line that came out of Jen McCabe's mouth today was when she was asked about the text from her minor kids. Her answer about answering, I honestly didn't, just highlighted her intentional lies. I love how when she says, well, to be honest, like she's not honest all those other times. Like she says that a lot, to be honest. Andrea Burkhart. Thank you so much, Attorney Andrea Burkhart. She says, what a masterful cross. The case is in a death spiral. Brennan bet heavy on Jen's credibility and lost. Yeah, I think so. It's great to hear from you, Andrea. Love Andrea Burkhart. If you're not, make sure you follow her. She's been on the show in the past. She's a great guest. Thank you so much for. Oh, she sent another super chat too. She's so nice. That's the thing. Andrea is like tough but nice. I love Andrea. She's a badass. She says, "In finishing a great week with Mark's take is the cherry on top." Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Andrea. I love Andrea. Andrea is the best. Thank you so much, Andrea. If you're not following her, make sure you follow Andrea Burkhart. She's one of the best attorney YouTubers out there. I just absolutely love her. KDS says AJ should have asked JM how she felt when her husband called her dear friend who she just found dead the guy. I know, right? That's what her husband was like, telling the guy didn't come into the house. And then Jen's on the 911 call. Just unbelievable. They distanced themselves. Bella's mom came up. Hi, is Jen's statement at the end about why she didn't run in to check on B and Coco was there because there was taillight? So I'm trying to read this. This is hard to read. There was taillight there, so he used to have been hit. No danger to anyone. I'm not sure. I can't read into that. Thank you, Bella's mom. I think a lot of what Brian Albert says is the reason he didn't come in because he felt like it would be some kind of a conflict of interest. I mean, that is actually a good answer, but I still don't buy it. You know what I mean? And you know, it's one thing too. Like if you don't come out because you're the cop, you could have sent your wife out. Could have sent your kids out. You know, they got no pull. Amr Avalesi says, I really close tabs, just keep on with the same one. So my search for today's weather will show it was done last month. I know, right? I do that a lot, especially on the phone. Like I'll open up a tab and it's already there. You know, you don't delete them. They're usually I have like 5 tabs open. So it does happen. I just can't imagine deleting a Google search. That to me is the real weirdness on your phone. PG says they guaranteed a mistrial with the jury selection process, and that's all the local cronies need, sadly. That's what I fear. That's what I fear. I mean, a mistrial is a win for Karen Reed, but I think that's all the prosecution is looking for because that's probably all they have at this point is a mistrial, just like last time. Amr of Alessi said, who's ever been sold a vacuum cleaner by 2 guys in dark suits? Are you talking about the Kirby vacuum cleaners? I actually like, I don't even know what you call it because I wasn't hired, but you know, like you go to like, you answer a help wanted ad and then you show up at the place and it was the Kirby vacuum cleaners. I think I lasted about a week doing that. That's a tough job. It's another one where your ethics are like when you start like you listen to them what they're doing and you're like, I don't think so. I don't think this is for me. I don't think this passed my ethics. But again, at least selling someone an expensive vacuum cleaner isn't ripping them off from their life savings. Or putting them in jail for a crime they didn't commit. You know, different levels of ethics. Badass bitch says, best day Jen got smoked by Jackson. I graduated with my BA in psychology and was accepted into the master's program for fall. Congratulations. Sounds good. Good luck with your master's program. That's what I have. I have a BA, a Bachelor of Arts. That's all I am. A simple BA, but it's done well for me. Even from a state school. It's good to get educated. Mommy Shabby Pumpkins says, Bederow is the man. I'm wondering who doesn't have a Ring doorbell nowadays. All the neighbors close by and not one camera. BS, great show. Free Karen Reed. Free Turtle Boy. You know what? On the Ring camera too, like especially at night. Like for me, and I just assume that a lot of people are like myself, especially with me, because I'm going back and forth. I'm doing the dog walk, so I'm at home, then I'm at the customer's house, then I come back. So I'm going, and plus we have Amazon deliveries coming in, all that stuff. So during the day, generally, I don't keep the Ring camera on. But once night hits, once I'm in for the night, once I have my last walk with Charlie, that camera goes on until the morning. So I am very surprised. I think a lot of people, when they're sleeping, turn those cameras on. So you would think that something would have come up. But I don't know if they didn't ask. I don't think they asked all the neighbors. I'd be really surprised. Lindsay 902 says, "Can you explain why Denise could only offer hearsay testimony, not against party opponent, and why didn't AJ ask about Colin being there?" Yeah, I'm not sure on any of that. Especially the AJ stuff with Colin. I think what Bederow said tonight. I think Colin is not going to be as much a part of this case like he was before. So I think maybe that's why. Why bring him up if he is? I don't think the prosecution's going to put him on the stand, and I'm not sure the defense will either. So I think that may be why. Why would you bring someone up that may not even be a part of the whole thing now? Uh Team Wicked Smart versus Pure Wicked says Karen said she expected to find him by the road because Jen was adamant he never went in the house after Karen dropped him off. So that's probably the explanation you'll hear from the defense, I'm assuming, over the next days or weeks or months, depending on when they get to it. Bella's mom says, did the defense just learn about the 507 call Jen made to Coco? That we don't know. That's a good question. It seems like we all just found out about it. But again, we often don't know what the defense is going through because so much of this case is done at sidebar. We don't know what has been brought up, what's new, because we don't hear what they're discussing with Auntie Bev, and whatever reason, maybe she wouldn't allow it before. Who knows, right? We don't know. Tara Roach says, can the defense use Victoria George somehow during trial to tell the jury she was on the last jury? That would be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if the judge would allow that. And I'm not sure how they would get that in there. And I'm not sure that she's actually going to have any speaking parts on this trial. I think what Mark Bederow said is very true. You got 4 great attorneys. I'm not sure that Victoria George is going to be presenting anything during the trial. We'll see. Hey, it's me. Thank you so much for the donation. Says, I completely respect Mark about super chats, but it's very frustrating not being heard. Yeah, I get it. But you have to realize it's also frustrating for people that are commenting and they're not heard either because they don't throw down the money or they don't have the money. So there's no perfect system here. I got to say, like, no matter what we do, someone's going to be upset by it. And the truth of it, I prefer it better this way because I felt like there was so much pressure on me. We'd have 150 super chats come in, and if I don't read one, people get mad at me, because they sent money, and I kind of understand it. But at the same time, so I personally prefer it better this way. And like not every guest, because a lot of times we do read questions to guests. But when Mark's on, it becomes a frenzy. Like Mark is different in terms of the level of interest that he brings, especially on this show. So I get it. I get it can be frustrating too. But you have to realize, how many questions I asked tonight? I had probably 3 times as many starred. I just kept going through it. I'm trying to pick up the best ones of them. And that's why sometimes I'm pausing and stopping when I didn't have a question for them, because you guys threw so many good questions. And I am kind of sad actually that a lot of the questions that you had up, I didn't get a chance to ask because there were just so many good questions tonight. And that's the issue here is that when you have that 10,000 people watching and they all have a question. So no matter what you're doing, someone's going to get left out, unfortunately. And I think it's just better to take the money equation out of the question asking. And then also the big thing is I could tell it made Mark uncomfortable. And I don't want him uncomfortable here. I want him to be having fun and chilling. The Turtle says, thanks for using your platform to give us coverage with Mark. Would there be a dismissal if the defense proves the Commonwealth used edited videos as evidence? And I see that's a question I would have liked to ask tonight. There's another question, too, about the Sallyport video and Bukkake, whether he'll be asked about it. He's definitely going to be asked about it. That's going to be one of the leading questions they ask, I guarantee you, Agent Buchanan. If they could prove it, I mean, if they could prove this to Turtle, that's the problem. Can they prove it, though? I mean, I believe this probably happened, but how do you actually prove it? That's the problem, right? I mean, we had some shows with Abby. I felt like she did a good job kind of discussing, the different files and the formats and the Acquavision and all that other stuff. But in the end, it's like still not, I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to prove. Especially for a simpleton like me. And I think for the jury too. Thank you, the Turtle, Good question. Kelly PCG says, I'm most concerned that the Supreme Court or any higher court can't see this as a cover-up. I know, right? I feel like they got a lot of details wrong, too, in their review. Mike V says, can the defense say that Archer was hired by the same law enforcement agency that interviewed Jen McCabe? I don't know. I hope so. Got to depend on the judge. Team Wicked Smart versus Wicked Pure says, in opening, AJ didn't explain the detail that Karen Reed was waiting for John O'Keefe to let her know if they were welcome. Need to bring out soon to explain angry text. I know. That is a good point. Because it makes sense when you know that, right? Great point. Oh my God, LaFerio. She's amazing. I didn't even see that till now. Oh, thank you, LaFerio. Oh man, I really appreciate you, Nan. You don't even know. I got to tell you why when we get it. Well, actually, you probably know why. Remember, I'll say this to Nan. Remember when we first started talking, I sent you over something? It's in the works. It's happening. So I need every dollar right now. Thank you so much, LaFerio. She says, keep showing up. We'll watch you and Mark on replay. Thank you so much, LaFerio. I really appreciate that. You are so generous to me. I just can't thank you enough. Gary Titus at $9.99. He says, do you have the moves, Mike? You do have the moves, Mike, he says. Do I, Gary? You're a DJ. I guess if anyone would know, you would know, Gary. But I'm sure you see a lot of bad dancers too, Gary. I don't know if I have the moves. That was when you watch yourself dance after, you're like, holy shit, I should have drank. So one of the commenters on on Twitter said, let me cough for a second. One of the YouTube, ex members, ex tweeters was like, he wasn't even drinking. If I was drinking, it would have been a lot more sloppy. Jody Mitchell. Oh, she's one of the organizers from the event last night. Thank you so much, Jody. I love Jody. They did such a good job. The organizers, phenomenal. They went through a lot of BS. The trolls were harassing them. It got canceled, and then Turtle Boy made a call and got it rescheduled. I just so thankful. It was so well done. It was so much fun. Good food, nice people. Great organizers. I love them. Jody Mitchell sent $10. She says, hi, Mike. Just getting in tonight and catching the end of the show. Thank you for coming last night. Had a blast watching you on the dance floor. You were there. Jody was dancing with us. She was dancing with us too. That was fun. Thank you so much, Jody. Sui Generous says, Jen is the biggest proven liar ever on the stand. changes her story an awful lot. Hey, it's me, says, I understand about Mark. You do a great job. You are a great host. Thank you so much. Hey, it's me. I'm glad you can feel where we're coming from on that. All right, I think that's all the super chats, but now I got to do the Venmo. And there were some Venmos from earlier today and I think last night. So I got a few Venmos I got to catch up on. Let's do that right now. Oh, what's going on here? Now they're, oh, come on, Venmo. All right. Just 20 seconds ago, William B said $50 on Venmo. And he said, thanks for a great job you were doing. Thank you so much, William B. That's very generous. Very thankful. $50. Wow. Kimberly C, sorry. Sometimes I try not to say the last names and then I screw it up. I'm sorry. Kimberly C. And the reason I don't always say the last names is because of the trolls. I know trolls harass people. It just sucks. It sucks that they do this. They do this to our guests. They do this to people who contribute. People are just horrible people. Kimberly C sent $10. She says, love the 3Ms. Thank you. She's got a picture of a dog there. Thank you so much, Kimberly C. Kelly P, I know she's a Canton resident. She says, what do you think about Jen saying taillight was found by his body as a last remark? I mean, it's like she could have said Santa Claus showed up and dropped the taillight. It doesn't, anything she says like that. It's just, okay. Yeah, sure, Jen. Okay, Jen. Whatever you say, Jen. That's what I think about it, Kelly. Thank you so much. Kelly P is awesome. I really appreciate Kelly P. She's a Canton resident. She was quoted in my latest Midnight Mass newsletter blog there. Thank you so much, Kelly P. Lisa R. also sent $10 tonight as a gift. Thank you so much, Lisa R. Barbara M. sent $20, says, great dancing, Mike. Good show. Everyone's into the dancing. Thank you so much. Paula K. sent $5. She says, wonder if Coco's phone records will put her at lengths as well. I didn't hear AJ ask Jen if Nicole hopped in the car today. Amazing with the 2Ms. Thank you so much. It ended up being 3Ms tonight. Mazza joined us right at the end. Thank you so much, Paula K. She also said, sad I missed the dancing and fundraiser. You would love line dancing. Thank you. And can't wait for tonight's show. Thank you so much, Paula K. And earlier today, Bill M. Sent $20. He said, keep up the great work, Mike. Thank you so much. Oh, yesterday, a good friend of mine, Mark Dufour, he's a big Free Karen Reed guy. He's a business owner. He sent me a $250 donation on Venmo. Very generous. Thank you so much, Mark. You are the man. I really appreciate these big donations. It's amazing. And like I said, there's some things going on I'm not going to talk about publicly right now, but I appreciate the donations. It helps me out big time. All right, I want to and when the time comes, I've already talked a little bit about it in the past. You probably have an idea if you read between the lines, but I just don't want to comment too much right now. When the time comes, I definitely will talk more about it and hopefully get some more help from you all. I think you'll be able to help me out with it. Mike W. also says, it was great meeting you last night, talking stories. Oh, thank you so much, Mike. It was great meeting you too, Mike W. I met a few Mikes last night. It was so funny. We're like, Mike and Mike. Also, Barry D. sent $2.99 on the Cash App. He said, I enjoy your content. So thank you so much, Barry D. Earlier this week on Monday, I got $10 from Dominique. She sent $10. She said, enjoying your show. I want to make sure I acknowledge that one. I'm not sure if I had mentioned it earlier this week. And also on Sunday, the Rogue Townie said, happy birthday, Mike. I think I did acknowledge that one. Woo! I think I'm all done. I think I got all the Venmos and the Super Chats. I'm going to go back and check and make sure no more new ones came in. Wow, what a show. All right, I think I got them all. Still 5,000 plus of you watching me read Super Chats and Venmos. That's amazing. Almost 6,000 people. Thank you, Miss Jody. She says, Mike, you do an awesome job every time. You're getting better and better. Keep it up. Yes. Sarah and Shock and Horror, one of our moderators. I want to thank our mod team. I don't think I thanked them on the last show. I love our mod team. I want to thank Sarah and Shock and Horror. I want to thank MJ, Stephanie, Jeno, and Scott McGinnis. We got the great crew here. Thank our mods on the way out. I always use we on this show a lot. It's funny, when the Young Jerk started, I had a co-host, I had a producer, I had an internet radio station, I had all this, so it was always we. And then when COVID hit, it really just became, instead of we, it was really just me. And it's like one of my biggest detractors was like, why are you always using we? It's you, it's I, it's me. It's not we. Stop BSing. And it's funny because I would always go back to them and be like, well, it is the Young Jerks, and jerks is plural, so therefore it should be we. But over the last year or two, it totally has become we, because my mods they're part of the team. Like when you talk about the Young Jerks, it's my mods and Mike Crawford. That is the team. And my guests, like the 3Ms and all of our different guests that we have on the show and the community we have here, and you guys in the chat. Like, I consider you part of the jerks. That's why I say hi, jerks. What's up, jerks? Because you're part of the thing. Like, your comments are on the screen. We're like a family here. So it is we. It's my mods. It's the community. It's the audience. It's the guests. And then it's me. Yeah. I'm part of it too, obviously. But it's definitely a plural. Definitely more than one. And I love our mods. They are everything to me. They keep me sane too. Like, to have someone, a group of mostly ladies that understand what's going on, and then we can just talk, and there's no judgment. It's all support. I love our little chat that we have, and I'm very thankful. Because otherwise, I'd be alone doing this. Yeah, sometimes it's even the haters, Sarah says. We get a lot of them, don't we, Sarah? We get a lot of haters. Sometimes they're even in Free Karen Read. I mean, you see that. I see some people are, I'm not going to say who. It's funny, because some of the Super Chats tonight, there are some people in the Super Chats who don't get along, and they're Free Karen Read. And I just got to say to them, don't let it get to you. Just ignore it. I've been there. There's been people in the Free Karen Read movement that got mad at me and came at me, and it's just not worth it. Just ignore it. Let it go. Move on. Be the bigger person, because in the end, this is all about Free Karen Read, Free Turtle Boy. Nobody else has any patience for any of the other BS. And I love this one. I don't care. I mean, that's it. That's the way I feel about the beefs. Like, if someone comes at me within Free Karen Read, I don't care. Like, I don't care what you have to say about me, because I know what I'm doing. I'm doing my show. I love it. I love my community. I love our audience. I love our mods. I love our guests. I love what I'm doing. So I really don't give a shit if you have some kind of snipe at me. I really, at this point. There may have been in the past where I got a little, not anymore. And I think that's my advice to anyone who's in this community that finds themselves getting attacked or belittled by people in the movement. It happens to all of us. Deal with it just like you deal with the trolls. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's just trolls. Just let it go. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that they're talking shit about you. I don't. Yeah. And exactly. Ignore them and then move on to the next one. And you can find that in everyday life too. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like you, or maybe someone you don't like. Sometimes we just don't like people for whatever reason. Sometimes we don't even know why we don't like them. So just let it go. Yeah, leave the drama. That's what I've been trying to do. It's been working out for me too. It's not easy. I get that. When someone's attacking you and you feel like you haven't done anything wrong, you want to. I've been there. And I've been there a lot this year because I swear to God, the more the more the show rose, the more people started attacking on, every side, especially the trolls, but also people within the movement at times. It just happens. That's life. Again, I want to thank my moderators. I want to thank my girlfriend. I want to thank Mark Bederow for being here tonight, attorney Mark Bederow and Mazza Media. And again, I want to thank all of you. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I probably will do a show tomorrow night. We got a lot of video. I want to go through the Gene stuff. I want to go through the Turtle Boy and the Jen McCabe. So probably going to get back up here sometime this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be Saturday night, Saturday morning, Sunday night. We'll see. Going to have a lot more shows too as well. And guests over the next couple weeks. I'm looking forward to it all. All right, I'm going to head out. Thank you so much for being so generous tonight with me. Whether you're spending time, that's generosity. Spending time here. I know a lot of you do it for yourself because you have interest, but I appreciate that you spend the time here. And I also appreciate, obviously, all the support and the questions and the super chats and the Venmos. And, of course, you know what I appreciate the most? The love. You guys love me, and I really do appreciate it. You saw me last night. I could feel it. I'll see you soon. Have a great night, everyone. Have a good rest of your weekend. And we'll see you very soon. Peace. Peace out, jerks.